As the Astros and new owner Jim Crane prepare for opening day 2012, they have returned to Houston for 2 final exhibition games. It's the Chicago White Sox and Houston Astros next on Fox Sports Houston. Live from Minute Maid Park in Houston, Texas, Fox Sports Houston brings you Houston Astros baseball. Tonight is the first of a 2-game series between the Houston Astros and the Chicago White Sox. Good evening, everybody. Bill Brown and Jim Deshaies with our final televised game from spring training involving 2 teams that last met in the '05 World Series, JD.
Don't bring back those memories, Brownie. Yeah, spring training game, but finally back in Houston. A lot of players happy to be out of Florida. In Houston is opening day just a couple of days away now. A lot of positive stories for Brad Mills this spring. For the most part, the club has stayed healthy, but maybe the best story so far, if you're looking for an MVP of spring training, Chris Johnson. Rough year last year for CJ, sent back down to the minor leagues, but so far this spring, he is really swinging it well. 5 home runs, 6 doubles, a slugging percentage of over 700, so he renewed Chris Johnson. Astros looking for improvement all over the field, and they may get it in Chris Johnson as an upgrade over Chris Johnson of last year.
And Bud Norris is on the mound tonight in his final tune-up before going in the first series against Colorado.
Yeah, he'll be the third man out of the chute. Wandy Rodriguez, Lucas Harrell will work games 1 and 2. Bud with a little bit of a triceps problem this spring, got knocked off his rotation a little bit. But all systems go, threw the ball very well last time out. Not sure how much we'll see from him tonight. I wouldn't be surprised if they got him out of there, say, after 3 innings or so.
Tonight, the White Sox, who are on their way to Arlington to open against the Rangers Friday night. And the Astros with Jim Crane, the new owner, getting ready. And general manager Jeff Luhnow and Brad Mills all set for the final 2 games in Houston. This game is coming your way in just a minute.
Style as the White Sox visit the Astros here at Minute Maid Park. Greg Lucas on field level, as I will be most games this year. We're waiting for the teams to take the field. The Astros taking on the White Sox, a team they will be playing in the regular season and starting this year, every year for the foreseeable future, as they will both be playing in the American League starting next year. The Astros, though the game is an exhibition game, it still has something on the line because we still have several players that are vying for positions, and backup outfielders particularly, and some of the guys in the bullpen. So though the game doesn't count in the standings, it does count, believe you me, for some of those players still trying to make that opening day roster. And the guys who are going to start the game are taking the field, and so that means it's time to send it upstairs for our play-by-play duo, Bill Brown and Jim Deshaies.
Thanks, Greg. Great to be back for 2012. Let's take a look at the Astros on the field now and show you a little bit different look than you saw a year ago from this organization. Carlos Lee has moved to first base. In the outfield, it's J.D. Martinez in left, Jordan Schaefer in center. Justin Ruggiano is playing right field tonight with Carlos Lee at first, Jose Altuve, Angel Sanchez playing short, and Chris Johnson at third. Bud Norris and Chris Snyder are their battery mates, and the Astros have a very good catching situation with Snyder and with Jason Castro.
Indeed they do. Tonight it's Bud Norris, 6-11 last year with a very respectable 3.77 earned run average. Big strikeout numbers, 176 of those. League hit 250 against him. After the All-Star break, managed just 1 win, posting a 4.26 ERA. But a lot of talk around baseball this year that Bud Norris poised to take a big step forward. So, real important year for the young right-hander.
For the Chicago White Sox, who are looking also for a resurgent season under their new skipper, Robin Ventura, Alejandro De Aza leads it off in center. It's Brent Morel at third. Adam Dunn, the DH, batting third, the Houston native, followed by Paul Konerko at first. A.J. Pierzynski, the catcher. Alex Rios in right field. Alexi Ramirez, the shortstop. Diane Viciedo in left field. And Gordon Beckham at second base. And for Brad Mills, whose club has had a good spring, but nursing a couple of injuries right now. Jed Lowry again is out of the lineup today, and he's been out with a hand injury for the last few days. So it'll be a decision to be made by tomorrow whether Jed Lowry is on the disabled list to open the season, or he could be the opening day shortstop on Friday night against Colorado. And other decisions to be made as well. And now as Bud Norris makes his final tune-up for that first game that counts this year. He has very good numbers this spring. 3 wins, 1 loss, and a 3.60 ERA facing De Aza. And there is strike one. Home plate umpire is David Rackley.
Bud primarily fastball slider, but one of his goals this spring was to start to implement the changeup more, especially against left-handed hitters.
No balls and 2 strikes for Bud after that 6-11 season, working 186 innings. There's that pitch.
Good run on a 2-seam fastball there.
And the target a little further outside, and he misses with it. Now the White Sox, an interesting team. Very little is expected of their team. They're 13-18. But not only have they changed managers with Robin Ventura, but also a coaching staff that's undergone a world of changes, except for the pitching coach, Don Cooper. And the throw goes down to first from Snyder to Lee on the strikeout of De Aza. That's a good way for Norris to start.
I guess that speaks of the credentials of Don Cooper, right? When they clean house, but he's still there. Obviously, he's done a lot of things right over the years. And there's that power slider just chewing up De Aza.
And Snyder gets down to block it. Now the third baseman, Brent Morrell, a good fielder who carries nice numbers for the spring into this game tonight. Brent Morrell has hit .317 for spring training. White Sox trained out in Arizona. There's ball one. .245 last season for Morrell. He had 10 long balls and drove in 41. Got underneath that one, and here's J.D. Martinez in left field of the warning track, feeling for the wall and backing up against it for out number 2. Well, you know these players have to be so happy to get back into a big league ballpark after the long grind of spring training.
Especially the outfielders.
Yeah,
Florida is no fun for the outfielders.
True.
All the day games and the bright sun overhead. It's always windy. The conditions in Florida are not good for the outfielders.
Adam Dunn looks so much better this spring. And last year really struggled, hitting .159. 11 homers, 42 runs batted in for the White Sox. Just a miserable year for Adam Dunn. At age 32, Adam is not done, is he? There's ball one.
Well, I suspect not.
Well, it's been a very good spring for him. He's walked 14 times, high on base average, and that's been the package with this Houston native down through the years. Batting average does not begin to tell the story of Adam Dunn and what he can do. He has a career .374 on base average, a guy who walks a lot. He does strike out a lot, but in his career has 365 homers.
Well, and a 32-year-old slugger with the credentials and the numbers that he's put up over the years, for him to fall off the cliff the way he did last year was really surprising, and that's why I suspect he'll bounce back.
There's a looping liner, and the shift was on, but he still finds a hole over Altuve into shallow right field. Reaching out, and with that line drive, he gets a 2-out single.
You know, if Adam were 35 or 36, I might say, well, you know what, maybe the bat speed is gone, and he just wasn't able to compete last year. But I think it was just a mental thing with a new club. Fell into a funk early and could never dig his way out of it. But, you know, just a model of consistency up until last year.
5-time All-Star Paul Konerko, the cleanup man, is next. 36 years old. Terrific career, 396 homers, more than 1,200 runs batted in, and last year fell right into that pattern with the 300 average, 31 long balls, driving in 105. He was a first-round pick of the Dodgers in '94 as a catcher, then traded to Cincinnati in the Jeff Shaw deal in '98. White Sox got him in '98 in a trade from Mike Cameron. And he has become one of their best down through the years. There's strike one. Robin Ventura, the kind of manager that these White Sox players have really taken to this spring. Doesn't have a whole lot to say.
Remarkable contrast to Ozzie Guillen, who preceded him. Ozzie always was chirping. I think Robin was very quiet.
It's been a culture change on the south side of Chicago. 1 ball and 1 strike. These two teams, by the way, will play during the regular season. The Astros traveling to the White Sox home ballpark in Chicago in June. Robin Ventura had no thoughts of managing. He was pursued by the general manager, Kenny Williams, and the owner, Jerry Reinsdorf, on a trip to California. 1 ball and 2 strikes. White Sox, in one publication, are predicted to finish last in their division. Last year they were 79 and 83. They won 13 and lost 18 this spring. That pitch up where the target was. Konerko's able to get his bat up to it and foul it off.
Well, welcome back, Brownie.
Hey, welcome back to you. We got the chance to come in early today, take part in a luncheon. There's that defensive swing, but he did a good job to foul that off.
A little bit late getting started. By the time he got that front foot down, the ball was on him.
We got a complete preview at the luncheon today out at the 5-7 Grill for the media. And Jeff Luhnow, the Astros' new general manager, ran down the entire club. He'll be on the air with us, though, in a couple of innings. Do the same thing for you as you watch tonight.
We'll visit with Brad Mills later on as well. Kyle Weiland is going to join us.
Yeah.
So a lot of guests today. A parade, a cavalcade of stars. Pass through our booth.
Haven't heard that word in a while. That's a good word. Cavalcade.
Don't even know what it means.
It's a good word, though. And a swing and a miss as Norris negotiates his way through the first inning, allowing 1 hit and striking out 2. He gets Konerko to put up a 0 in the first. The guy who has not played in just a little bit over 2 weeks, leading it off for the Astros in center field, Jordan Schaefer. He's been out with a hand injury. Angel Sanchez getting the start at shortstop tonight with Jed Lowry out with an injury. J.D. Martinez is in left field with Carlos Lee at first base. Chris Johnson at third. Matt Downs, the DH. Chris Snyder, the catcher. Justin Ruggiano in right field. And Jose Altuve is the second baseman.
For the White Sox tonight, it's a young left-hander, Chris Sale. Hard-throwing lefty. This guy's nasty. Got a little bit of a low 3/4 delivery. Look at the line for Sale last year. First-round pick of the White Sox a couple of seasons ago. He's worked out of the bullpen now. He's making the transition to starting rotation. You take a look at the defense of the Sox, first in the outfield, then the infield. Morel, the third baseman, as Brownie mentioned, when he came to hit, could really pick it there at third base. Ramirez, Beckham, Konerko round out the infield. Krasinski's been around for about 100 years. He's the catcher.
Yes, he's been a durable catcher. And, of course, was on that 05 World Series winning White Sox club that clinched it here against the Astros. Now Schaefer feeling so much better with that hand that had been bothering him. It was the left hand. He made it on a diving catch as he jammed that hand. And 391 is batting average. He's scored 10 runs this spring. He has looked superb, not only at the plate, but in the outfield for the Astros.
Yeah, puffed up a little bit this winter, worked really hard hitting the weights, hitting the ball hard with regularity before he got hurt. This is not the kind of guy you want to make your comeback against, though. First at bat against live pitching in a while, this nasty left-hander.
For sure.
Will test your mettle.
Showing bunt, he looks at a strike. And it's a 1-2 count for the 23-year-old Sale from Lakeland, Florida. He went to Florida Gulf Coast University. Last year pitched in 58 games. He had 16 holds and 8 saves.
Yeah. It's kind of Randy Johnson-esque, that arm angle he's got.
Sure
Obviously not as big as the unit, but he's kind of lean and lanky and funky out there. So these are the Schaefers from Lakeland as well.
Oh, that's right. Little tap. Sale's not going to be able to get there. Here's Beckham, not able to make the play, and Schaefer returns to the lineup after more than a 2-week absence with an infield hit.
Schaefer, a guy we've seen drop down bunts for base hits, and this is essentially a swinging bunt. If you're trying to bunt, that's where you'd want to put it. Just push it out past the pitcher, make the second baseman come a long way to make a play, and with Schaefer's speed, there was no play.
That's a start for the Astros. Here's a good contact hitter, Angel Sanchez, who played a lot for the Astros last year at short. And he played some second as well. There's ball 1. Sanchez has had very good numbers this spring, hitting .350, driving in 5 runs. Dave Clark is the third base coach, flashing signs there for Angel. And he takes that one. Angel is very good in these situations. There's a hole at first base there with Konerko holding the runner, so that gives him a little extra room to hit the ball through the right side. He's adept at doing that. A hard man to strike out, usually makes good contact. He wound up at .240 last season. Takes that one for strike one. And Sale, as he makes the transition from reliever to starter, has a 2-1 count.
Yeah, I don't know what the plan is. If Jed Lowry is not able to answer the bell for opening day, and my hunch is he won't. I'm not sure if Angel Sanchez will be recalled and make the start, or Marwin Gonzalez, who's been so impressive defensively.
Kickoff throw. Konerko gets it on to Ramirez for the tag, and Schaefer is caught stealing. Reached back for that right hamstring as he came up from the slide. On a caught stealing from 1 to 3 to 6.
He's just guessing going on first move there, and unfortunately for him, the first move was the first base, and then well executed by Konerko. Perfect throw to Ramirez.
Yeah, that's the speculation now about shortstop. As you see out number 1 turned in there on Schaefer. Will Sanchez be returned to the roster? He had been sent out already in the minor leagues. That could easily be done. Marwin Gonzalez could be the opening day starter, and he's a Rule 5 draft choice and one of 10 players who have been told the last few days by general manager Jeff Luhnow that they will be making their first appearance in uniform on a major league roster, active roster on opening day. There's a liner into right, and Jason Castro was on the roster technically opening day last year, but of course on the disabled list all year long with that knee injury.
Now, see the Astros, remember that movie a few years ago, Dumb and Dumber?
Yeah.
See, the Astros are young and younger. They were young last year, and they're even younger this year.
They sure are. So Sanchez, with his specialty, solid line drive, hit to right field, is aboard for J.D. Martinez.
Well, after a caught stealing, we could have assumed he'd get a base hit.
J.D. fouls it back. There's strike one.
We had all winter long, Brownie, to research that. The batting average of players after caught stealing. I don't know about you, but I didn't bother.
No. But you know what was one of the most impressive things you and I ran across all winter? That SABR meeting we went to. When the member of SABR researched your popping up for the cycle question.
Yeah, I threw it out there during a game last summer because somebody did it. Somebody popped up to, or somebody was having a miserable day. I don't remember the details, but popped up, the third, short, second, and first, or 4 pop-ups on the infield. I said, I wonder if anybody's popped up for the cycle before. And I forget the gentleman's name, but he looked it up. He researched that pages and pages.
He did. He made an in-depth presentation.
Yeah.
And we were absolutely staggered by that.
I have that at home somewhere.
The appeal goes to first base. It's 1 ball, 2 strikes. David Rackley's the home plate umpire tonight. The others on this umpiring crew, Chris Conroy, Adrian Johnson, and Clint Fagan. Adrian at second base, a native of Houston. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Well, it's great that baseball is back. It's always a long winter for us, JD, and it's always with a lot of happiness that we come back and approach opening day. And this year should be special because of that quality with all the young players who are about to line up on that first base line for the Astros. And be introduced.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting night for all those guys. It's always such a fun night opening day at the ballpark. And there are a few seats left, but the available seats are dwindling. So
yes.
We urge you to act now.
6:05 game time Friday night for the opener. J.D. Martinez will look it over carefully on a full count. And for Brad Mills' club, it has been a good spring. 14 wins, 16 losses. Runner goes, and it's hammered. Ramirez diving, throwing from the seat of his pants. Terrific play, Alexi Ramirez. That's some larceny. Sanchez to second, 2 outs. That ball was a bullet, too.
Yep, that categorizes as a very good at-bat for J.D. Martinez, and a hang with him. Worked the count full, got a little slider, looked like up in the strike zone, hit it hard. It's a sweet play from Ramirez.
Wow. How about this from the split position?
With a little help from Konerko. Send it in. You watching a lot of basketball lately, Brownie?
And the kiss off the ground. Carlos Lee. Ball one. Yeah, that was fun last night, although not quite the game a lot of people had hoped for.
Yeah. Kansas just didn't have one more rabbit they could pull out of the hat.
Carlos, after hitting 18 homers, driving in 94 last year, has had a solid spring training. Settling in at first base after making that adjustment last season and becoming exactly what the Astros were looking for this spring. Jeff Luhnow saying today at the media luncheon as he ran down the club that he's asked Carlos to come over to the minor league side and address the young Hispanic players. He's done that a couple of times and lines this one by a lunging Ramirez into left center. An RBI single to make it 1-0 Astros. And that's the other thing Carlos has done. He's played extremely well this spring, and he's worked hard. He's been one of the first in and one of the last to leave.
High fives all the way around. Carlos delivers an RBI single on a tough pitch. Out away and down a little bit off the end of the bat. Just beyond the reach of Ramirez there. Caught that one. My goodness.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a good-looking shortstop. And now here's Chris Johnson. As J.D. mentioned at the opening of the telecast, it has been a fantastic spring for C.J. And there's ball one to him, leading the club in homers with 5. He's driven in 11 runs. He's hit .368. He, in fact, has the highest slugging percentage of all National League players in the Grapefruit League this year, and has fielded the position well also after being sent down to the minors last year. Pops that one foul and out of play. And as you well recall the story, he and Brett Wallace were both sent to AAA Oklahoma City and then got a chance to come back in September. But Chris was saying in some stories this spring that he thought it was a very good wake-up call for him, and he got the message. One ball, 2 strikes. If he can do what he's been doing this spring and what he did in his time in the major leagues in 2010, the Astros are going to be awfully pleased with third base this year.
If he can do what he's done this spring, he'll be the MVP. Oh, my goodness, the numbers are eye-popping.
Big breaking pitch, and that works for a strikeout for Sale. It's 1 run, 3 hits. The RBI comes from Carlos Lee with a 2-run single to left center to make it 1-0 Houston after 1. It's 1-0 Houston after 1, and that allows us a chance to chat with the Astros skipper Brad Mills during the ball game. Millsy, what do you think of spring training so far?
Well, I think it's pretty good. It's always a fun time of the season, and no matter what happens, it's always fun to get out and work with the guys and go through some things and see who you have, and it's always a good time.
Brzezinski leads it off. Has anything been different about any of the drills you've done, any difference in the routine at all this spring compared to previous springs?
Yeah, there's no doubt. We have done a lot of things different, and the reason we have done things different, we have a different type ball club, and every year we try to adapt how we do things in spring training, the schedule, to the type of personnel we have.
Brzezinski with a grounder. There's Carlos Lee. How has he looked at first base this spring?
You know, I think he's looked good. It's you know, he enjoys it over there, and anytime that you get a guy that with his ability, and he enjoys playing over there, whether it's in left field or first base, but the time of his career, I think he enjoys it over first base, and he's done a good job because of it.
Millsy, to anybody, if we're looking for a quote-unquote surprise of spring training, does anybody come to mind?
Surprise,
eye-opener kind of thing?
Yeah, Gonzi, Marwin Gonzalez, who you're going to see here later in this game at shortstop. He's really done a good job. this spring, and he's made our roster because of it. The way he's played shortstop, and it's nice to have really a true shortstop. You're able to draft like we were in the Rule 5 draft.
You know, Brad, a lot of managers say the worst part of their job is telling a player he's not with the team anymore. But on the reverse side of that, when you told those 10 guys they were going to be on the opening day roster in uniform for the first time, how much better did that feel?
I mean, that is fun. To see the grins that these guys are going to have is pretty cool. And Jeff Luno, he says he wants to make this a yearly kind of, historical to be able to do that, to tell these guys that, and they like that.
Alexi Ramirez, the batter, good-looking shortstop. That one goes out to center, and Schaefer, how good is it to get him back in the lineup after he missed just a little over 2 weeks, Brad?
Well, we've talked about him, how he's come to spring training and how he went about his drills, both offensively and defensively. And he was having such a good spring until he got hurt, and now obviously is his first day back, and anytime that we're a different ball club when he's at the top of the order.
Diane Biciedo next. And of your ball club, of course, nationally, you're hearing this in interviews. There are not high expectations. You could probably use that to your advantage, right?
Well, that's what they pay to do. They're paid to make those predictions and whatever. And we can't do anything about that. But we can do things about how this ball club plays and how they go about their business. And that's the biggest key that we want to focus on.
Bud Norris, how has he looked this spring?
He's looked good. It was he had that little tricep incident, a couple of weeks ago. He's come back real well from that, threw the ball well his last outing, and we're probably just going to get 3 innings out of him tonight to get him ready for his opening start.
So, Millsy, you've got Lucas Harrell in the rotation now, Kyle Weiland, both young guys. And maybe this was never your position, but it seemed throughout most of spring training that it was kind of not a given, but a lot of people assumed Levon Hernandez was going to be in the rotation. When did the thinking flip on that, or was that a situation where Levon wasn't really the guy, initially?
No, I think we would have liked to have that, him in the rotation. Have his veteran leadership to the young guys that you had talked about in the rotation, and on the pitching staff we have a young pitching staff. Well, as spring went along, Lucas threw the ball so well that we really needed to make a position for him on the ball club, and then kind of consequently, Levon started really struggling near the end. So we just kind of flipped and said, hey, we're going to go with our best arms, and the guys are throwing the best because we wanted to make this a competitive atmosphere throughout all of spring.
It must be nice to be able to pick guys that earned it, not by default.
It is. And you know what? Everybody else in the organization sees that, and that's nice.
Lucas Harrell, a very good night at Corpus last night. Good double play ball guy, isn't he?
Well, we had his previous start before last night. He gave up quite a few hits, and he came in and he was complaining about that. And we said, hey, they're all ground ball singles. I said, we'll take our chances with those and get the double plays and get out of the innings. And he continued doing that last night, getting a lot of ground balls.
Javier Bracamani got in there last night. Any chance we're going to see Stretch Suba here tonight, Millsy?
I think Stretch. He might be stretching for the next month and a half trying to get in there.
Stretch played left field one time many years ago when the Astros were at Texas A&M on a night when it seemed to be about 32 degrees. So there's a precedent set there, and Javier Bracamani, he'll be talking about that for years to come.
That was fun.
Yeah.
So you got a question. You can still have questions to the bullpen. You got to figure that out, correct? And then a backup infield, backup outfield.
Yeah, we are. We're talking about that, really daily, and we talked about it again today, and we'll go over it again tonight and probably in the morning, and we'll go from there.
Well, nice to have the catching situation settled the way you do, though.
Well, both those guys have had such a good spring, and you know, Snides has done a good job not only behind the plate but in the dugout, in the clubhouse with the guys. He's got a different air about him, which is really cool. And you know, he's popped a few balls. He's got some serious pop in his bat.
You can just tell, just talking with him before the game tonight, how excited he is to be back home in Houston. Runners going, and that's a walk, and the bases are loaded. Brad, of course, it's a very young club, but if you're going to have a veteran, that works well to have him at catcher, doesn't it?
Well, you know, and you guys know Jason Castro as well. He's so mature for his age and does a real good job of handling the pitchers. And then you complement him with a right-hand hitter like Snyder and a veteran guy, and it's just nice to have those guys in control of the pitching staff behind the plate.
The makeup of your club is quite different with all the left-handed hitters you have this year.
Well, I'm a little prejudiced towards left-handed hitters anyway, and it's nice to have that many. You're exactly right, and you know what? They're pretty good left-handed hitters too.
That's a good point. You know, Millsy, we were talking with some veteran Astros observers. We think you have to go back to maybe the mid-'80s to find this many left-handed hitters on the club. That whole Killer B era, this club has been pretty much right-handed hitting dominated, and it does give you a totally different thought when you're talking about managing the bench, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And you know what? These guys have really given us some real good at-bats against some left-hand pitching as well. So when you have that, that's a good problem to have. We need some strikes here, guys.
Yep. 2-1. You know, his slider looked better. Is that an improved pitch for Bud this spring so far, Brad?
Well, it's always been one of his out pitches, and I think the more he throws in the spring, the closer the season to get, obviously you're going to get it. It's going to be a little crisper, and hopefully, as he gets ready to start the season, he's almost there.
Dive by Altuve. Let's see. No, he can't make a play on it. A run scores. Here's another runner coming in to make it 2-1 White Sox. Altuve gave it his best effort. And you've seen a lot of that. Just noticing the stat sheet, Brad, and we haven't seen that many games this spring. Only 13 errors by the Astros. So would you say it's been a good spring for the fielding?
There's no doubt that our that side of the ball has really improved. And anytime that you're going to have like a guy like, Altuve and Sanchi or Gonzi or even Jed Lowry up the middle, those guys have done. And the guy that has really made the biggest improvement is probably Chris Johnson. He's really done a good job defensively.
Wow, defensively, and how about with the bat? My
Yes.
goodness, really swinging it well. I mean, the old adage is you can't get too excited about what you see in spring training, but obviously you have to be impressed with what you've seen from CJ.
Well, I think probably the biggest thing has been just his concentration and focus on trying to get exactly where it needs to be to get prepared and play like he's capable. And those are the types of things that have come out of his mouth this spring, that he really wants to be the best player he can, and be able to do that, he has to have that concentration.
No balls, 2 strikes. With Bud Norris having that good fastball, very crisp, the slider you talked about, how important is it for him to really mix in changeups this year?
Well, he's worked on that quite a bit, and you mentioned that he's worked on his slider, but I think he's probably worked on that off-speed pitch a little bit more. And if he's able to just show that around the zone, that's going to get some guys at least off that hard stuff.
Luciano over in the corner with the catch. Brad Mills, thanks so much for joining us. Have a great season.
Hey, thanks a lot, guys.
And Millsy.
To root for the Astros as they kick off the 2012 season against the Rockies this Friday. Enjoy the sights, sounds, and magic of opening day, including the opening day street fest with music and pep rallies on the Budweiser stage. 20,000 fans will receive a schedule magnet courtesy of United Airlines. Root now and buy opening day tickets at Astros.com. And guys, we are looking forward to that.
Oh, such a special day in baseball. It really is. All this anticipation over all the months, and now the long haul of spring training, and everybody disappointing for that day on Friday. There's strike one to Matt Downs. DHing tonight, a 163 average for the spring with 6 runs batted in, but a very potent year last year and extremely good as a pinch hitter last season, J.D.
Yeah, very dangerous off the bench. Gives you a good, solid at-bat. Good fastball hitter. That's kind of his MO. Goes up there, tries to get into a favorable count, and takes a good aggressive hack at a crippled fastball. Doesn't have that luxury now, down 0-2.
Sale with that big sweeping breaking ball. Pretty impressive. Let's look ahead to Friday night's matchup. Jeremy Guthrie for Colorado. And our coverage begins at 5 o'clock on FS Houston. Wandy Rodriguez, first opening day start for the Astros.
Yeah, that should be a lot of fun, shouldn't it?
Yeah.
Wandy, break-even pitcher last year. Solid run the last few seasons for the lefty, so nice to see him get that nod. Obviously, he was kind of the guy you expected to get it. It just announced here recently. And then Saturday, Jamie Moyer is going to pitch for the Rockies.
Yeah.
With the chance to become the oldest pitcher ever to win a major league game.
Yeah. So you've got all kinds of national attention on that game because of his age. And, of course, he's come back after missing all of last season. The surgery, that's been a big, big story building up to Saturday night here. 2 balls and a strike to Snyder. Chris, 31 years old, from Houston, Springwoods High School, and then the University of Houston. Had back surgery last June. Said his back has felt very good this spring. 2-2. And there probably will be about a 50-50 apportionment of the playing time behind the plate for at least a little while between Chris and Jason Castro. Both returning from surgery last year. 3-2. It's a good way to get a job share going and make sure that both are in the action and not too much action for them early. Jason Castro also feeling great after his knee surgery, and then he had foot surgery as well over the winter. Strikeout number 3 in a row for Sale. Sale is sailing, J.D.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive there. He showed Chris Snyder a little bit of everything. Good heater, good slider. Now good changeup to finish him off. Just slots that over the outside corner. And Chris well out in front of it.
White Sox are going to have the rotation of John Danks, Gavin Floyd, Jake Peavy, Philip Humber, and Chris Sale. And they have a dynamic bullpen as well. There's strike one to Justin Ruggiano, former Tampa Bay Ray, who's in the mix to be an opening day outfielder. And he could be the only right-handed hitting outfielder for the Astros if he does make the club. 0-2 to Ruggiano after 4 homers and 13 runs batted in, other than J.D. Martinez, that is. But it's such an odd situation for the Astros, who've normally been just dominant with right-handed hitting outfielders. 1-2-3 in the second inning, 2-1 White Sox after 2. Third, and we got to look at the new foods available at Minute Maid Park today at a luncheon. We also heard from General Manager Jeff Luhnow. Welcome to the Astros.
Well, thanks. It's a beautiful evening. I love the fact that we can control the climate in this city.
Yeah. And, you know, you hit the ground running with this club. You took over right before the Rule 5 draft, and then you made a trade a short time after that with the Boston Red Sox. You must have been up to speed before you actually got this job.
Well, being in the industry 8 years, you study all the teams, you know what's going on, and it was kind of fun to do that immediately after getting the job, being involved in the Rule 5, and then being able to do a trade that brought a couple players to our team that I think are going to be a big part this year.
Yeah, Jed Lowry has looked good this spring. Kyle Weiland will be in the starting rotation. We'll be hearing from him a little bit later. And it's been an interesting process for you this spring, hasn't it, Jeff?
Well, it has. I mean, I think the first thing on my agenda was to get to know our organization as best I could, and really tried to do that during spring training. And I'll tell you what, I'm pretty optimistic about the players we have and the staff that we have as well.
So many new people to learn, and hiring your own staff, getting people in place. Now looking forward to the long haul. It's an industry unlike any other, isn't it, Jeff?
Well, spring is the greatest time of year. We all have a winning record right now, or at least we're all starting with the same record, and I'm really excited about Friday. I think we've put together a team that's going to be able to go out there and compete with high energy, and I think we're going to really exceed expectations.
Adam Dunn strikes out.
To that end, is there a number out there in your mind that says if we win this many ball games, we've had a good year, or are you more just?
I don't think so.
About the process of getting better?
Yeah, I'm focused more on the process. Are we putting the effort out there? Are we doing a good job of giving Brad Mills the players that he needs to have a chance to win every ball game. How's our bullpen look? How's our rotation look? And I think those are the milestones that we want to hit this year, and I'm hoping that the wins will follow.
Paul Konerko coming up. Interesting, too, that a couple of Rule 5 draft choices will be on this club. Brad was talking about Marwin Gonzalez, who's looked very solid on the infield. And also there's a right-handed pitcher named Reiner Cruz, who has hit triple digits this spring. Tell us about him.
Well, he's in a power arm, throws from a relatively low arm angle, and usually when guys throw from that arm angle, they get a lot of movement on their pitches, and he does that along with the velocity and is a good slider. And if he can throw strikes, I think he's got a chance to be a closer or at least a setup man down the road.
When you evaluate your club, do you find strengths and weaknesses? In other words, the bullpen's the strength, the starting rotation. I mean, where are you most comfortable with this club right now?
I think the bullpen is very strong, especially from the right side. Losing Escalona is going to hurt us a little bit, but we'll figure out how to handle the lefties. The rotation is going to be good, but they're young and inexperienced, and I think we're going to occasionally see that. Hopefully the bullpen will be able to make up for that. Our lineup from top to bottom, though, we don't have a lot of superstars, but I think we've got guys that are going to produce offensively.
You were talking about David Carpenter at the luncheon today and how important he is in the scheme of things for the Astros of the future.
He's one of the young men that's really taken a leadership role on this club. He's got great stuff, I think. Came up from AA last year like a few other players and really fit right in. And this year, his second year at the big leagues, I think is going to really take a step forward. Now, we're expecting that from a couple of our guys.
And you were really multitasking because it's not only what people are seeing tonight with this major league club, but also the big part of the iceberg underneath this that has been much improved since last year, Jeff.
I think it has. The trades from last summer and some of the draft picks that have been made have really bolstered our bench strength. And, we've got 25 men on the roster at the big league level, but we've got 7 minor league teams in the U.S. and 1 in the Dominican Republic. And for each one of those teams, there's at least 25 guys on the roster, plus you've got coaches and trainers and so forth. So it's a big operation, but we're pretty excited about some of the guys that we've got coming.
Out to center field, and Schaefer measures it for out number 2.
So first pick in the draft this year, first overall. And from what I read, there's no Strasburg, there's no Harper out there. I mean, is there a 5 guys that stand out above the rest, or is it a bigger pool? I mean,
right now I think it's something in the 5 to 6 range, guys that we're looking at, making sure we're at every one of their games. The fact that there isn't one guy standing out is kind of fun in a way, because we got to do our homework and we really have to make sure that we make the right selection. But there are some good players, and what you hope to get with your first pick in the draft is somebody that you can build around an impact player, and I think that possibility exists.
Do you weigh college versus high school? How do you come down on that argument? Or?
Yeah, not for that first pick. You just take the best player.
Everything that has been said publicly about this organization's plan has indicated the long haul. Would that affect that choice then? You just said you take the best player, but if you have a choice somewhere later on in the draft, you think more about more upside of a high school player because you feel you're developing for down the line?
Well, I think you need to do a balance. It's sort of like a stock portfolio. You want to have some relatively safe investments, and you want to have some speculative investments that if they hit are going to be home runs. And if you spend your entire draft going after the home run guys, you might end up with not a lot. And so I think there's a balance in there, and that's what we were able to do in St. Louis, and able to get some high school players that made it to the big leagues and a lot of college players that were part of that World Series team last year. And that kind of balance is important for us here in Houston.
Having seen so many of the young kids, not only here in uniform tonight, but the kids down on the farm and the guys that were in spring training, just give me your assessment of it. I'll throw a couple names out there. Well, Springer's here. Not Springer, but Singleton.
Right.
I've heard great things about Singleton. I haven't seen him play yet. George Springer, the outfielder, would be another one that comes to mind. And then the Kozart kid.
Those are the three big names, and I think you can stack those 3 names up against any 3 top prospects in the other organization. I think where we may fall a bit short is when you start getting to the 15th, 16th, 17th names, and I think that's where this draft is going to help, and some of the moves that we're making down the road will help. There's also a young man named VR playing shortstop, and he's incredibly talented. And there's definitely major league prospects that have a chance to be all-stars in our farm system, and I can't wait for them to continue to develop and eventually get here.
Brownie and I were talking with Mark Parent, who's coaching with the White Sox now before the game, and he managed those guys in the Philly system. He had Singleton and VR, and he was raving about both of them.
Yeah, I've met some of the scouts that scouted him and some of the player development people, and they're two pretty special players, but we got to add to our bench strength and get more of them.
Jeff Luhnow, our guest. We'll be back with more with Jeff as this ball game is in the middle of the third with the White Sox and Astros 2-1 Chicago at the moment. Settling into Minute Maid Park after a long spring. You've had a whirlwind life, haven't you? You got married, you went to spring training for, 6 weeks? Now you just got back to Houston. You feel like you're settling in a little bit?
Well, it's nice to be back in Houston. I got to the ballpark last night, and my car battery was dead because it had been sitting in the parking lot for 2 months. But got that fixed today, came down here. It was such a great atmosphere down here today, watching batting practice with the roof closed and seeing, I'll tell you what, there was Chris Johnson hit a couple off the glass up there. It was fun to watch. And I just can't wait for opening day on Friday, and it's going to be an electric environment in here.
How about yourself and your emotions sitting in the general manager's box watching a game now? That's going to have to be a memorable night coming up for you.
I can't wait. It's going to be thrilling. I mean, I remember this ballpark in 2004 and 2005 when I was here with St. Louis, and to imagine that I'd be up here as the general manager of this wonderful franchise going into its 50th year, I'm just very excited. I'm honored to be here.
Bottom of the third now, and it's Jose Altuve, and you've talked about it, Brad Mills as well. Jose Altuve with the improved plate discipline. He was mentioning tonight during batting practice he feels so much better at the plate. It doesn't mean he's going to take every first pitch, but he just wants to get a good pitch to hit.
I think that's it. He's going to put himself in a better position to drive the ball where he wants to drive it and on his conditions. And he's got a tremendous back control, and he'll be able to slap the ball all over the field. He's never going to be a power guy, and so he's going to have to rely on some of the other things about his game to be a run producer. But certainly if he continues to hit in that 300 range and has an on-base of high 300s, he could be a very effective player for a long time to come.
For a guy who has rarely walked throughout his professional career, and he's still a very young guy, and there's a lot of talk about can you teach that? Can you teach plate discipline? I mean, what's your position? I mean, have you seen it happen? Have you seen other cases where you can go to Altuve and go, look, buy into this because I've seen it happen with player X, Y, or Z?
I do think it's possible. I think he's a good example of it. If he wants to do it and he realizes the value, and we've got the methods to teach him how to do it, which we do, he's going to make some progress. I think that there's always the question with major league players. They're here because they've been successful, so if you ask them to change something, they're not likely to really want to change something at this level because of their success.
But to that end, because the club, there you go, just perfect timing, draws the walk. There's so many young guys here. You have a chance to put a system in place, and not only in terms of what guys do in terms of, sabermetrics or how you break down the game, but even with Brad Mills in terms of creating a culture in the clubhouse of how he wants the game played. I mean, that's the great advantage of having so many young guys here. And are the players buying in, I guess?
They are, and I think it's working from top to bottom, and you have to be aligned from the big league level all the way down to the minor leagues. And I think Brad and Doug have done a good job of articulating what our philosophy is offensively and on the pitching side, and I think it's going to work.
By the way, that was Altuve's 10th walk of spring training. Now Schaefer. So the plan apparently is to hit Altuve 8th from what we're reading. Is that your understanding?
Well, I think the lineup will vary throughout the year, but at this point, with Schaefer up at the top of the order, Lowry looks like a very good 2 type of hitter, so we'll have to see. I think we'll be, Brad will probably be tinkering around a little bit early in the year, but we'll see. Altuve is going to be a valuable offensive contributor no matter where he is in the lineup.
Strike one. You mentioned Lowry. Where do you stand on him now as far as being on the active roster for opening day?
Well, we got to make a decision in the next couple of days. I think we're going to take it all the way up to probably even Friday potentially before we make that decision, because we don't want to lose him for any more games than we have to. It's not a major injury. It's just a matter of him being comfortable enough to go out there and swing the bat.
Smacked on a line, but caught by Beckham, and there's a double play. Altuve's footing gave way on him, and that ball was hit very well.
Good to see Schaefer take a big cut like that, and looks like he's ready.
Especially off a tough lefty.
Yeah.
Like Sale. It's kind of ironic. His first time up, he got that base hit on that little slow roller to second base. Now he hits a BB, and it turns into a double play. The injustices of baseball. It's just not fair.
No, it is not. That's Sanchez, the batter. He singled to right field. You've had a chance to look at the depth in the organization throughout the spring. Now, you certainly hope that all these young players can take hold, Jeff, and keep their jobs and excel, but we know that that's not going to be the case with every single one. And it just seems that the depth in the organization is much better this year.
It is. I think that, and we're going to notice that because our Oklahoma City team is going to do better, as is Corpus Christi.
Jeff Luhnow, thanks so much, and great luck to you this season.
Well, thanks, guys. Looking forward to being on with you again.
Thank you. You're the One Sox.
Back to Minute Maid Park, and be sure to join the Astros as we celebrate the 50th anniversary of the first game in franchise history. Tuesday, April 10th against the Braves. The Astros will wear the authentic, legendary Colt 45 uniforms, and 10,000 fans will receive a Colt 45's cap courtesy of Cons. Root now and buy tickets for April 10th at Astros.com. Guys, you know, it's really fun to look back and remember all those uniforms, which they'll be doing all year long, or all season long, for all the different uniforms we've seen over the years.
We'll see a parade of them starting on the 10th. That'll be the first look at the Colt 45's uniforms, and they'll wear them again on the 20th. Here's Reiner Cruz. We were talking about him, J.D., a moment ago.
Yeah, the Rule 5 draft pick. You look at his minor league numbers last year, 5-3, 3.89 ERA. In spring training, he got off to a very ugly start, but then turned it around and threw the ball a lot better. And Jeff was talking about him last half inning. He's a guy with an electric arm, can reach triple digits from a low three-quarters arm angle, which is just nightmarish for a right-handed hitter. Well, we'll see how the young guy fares.
Ramirez bailing a little bit.
A little wobbly front side for Alexi.
Yeah, the interesting thing that Jeff Luhnow told us about at the luncheon was that Reiner Cruz has really come under some good tutelage from the pitching coach, Doug Brocail. And Livan Hernandez worked with him effectively this spring as well, just trying to harness this guy with a tremendous arm. And in the beginning, he had some very shaky outings this spring. Lately, outstanding.
And last year, he was at Double-A Binghamton in the Met system for most of the year, a little time with their A-ball club in St. Lucie.
There's a hit by Ramirez, and J.D. Martinez goes back, and will avoid the error by holding Ramirez to a single.
Reiner Cruz, kind of the type of guy you're looking for in the Rule 5 draft when you're in the situation that the Astros are in. You know, if you figure that you're going to be a contender, you probably don't have a roster spot open to take a flyer on a guy like Reiner Cruz. But when you're in a rebuilding mode, why not take a shot at a guy who can throw 100 miles an hour? Even though he's had command problems throughout the minor leagues, it's worth a chance. Maybe you're the club that gets him when he figures it out.
Diane Viciedo looks at the heater. There's strike one. 91 as Cruz is below what his top velocities has been this spring. Viciedo singled and scored in the second inning. Cuban-born outfielder, very good talent, just 22 years old. And he's moved from third base to right field to left field this year, with Rios going from center field to right field and De Aza taking over in center in a revamped White Sox outfield. For Cruz, a chance to impress this spring, and his first outing, he didn't get anybody out against the Braves, gave up 3 earned runs. Popped up. We're not sure what the makeup of the bullpen would be. Wesley Wright certainly has made a strong bid to be at least one left-hander if there aren't two, and it looks like there will only be one the way the club shapes up right now, but things can change between now and tomorrow, J.D.
Yeah, I know Brad Mills would love to have two. But Escalona's hurt right now. You see, you got Myers as the closer.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon Line.
Yep.
Lopez.
Right. Carpenter. Rodriguez.
Reiner Cruz.
Mm-hmm.
And then one lefty.
Probably, yeah. Runner going here, and a bouncer back to Cruz. He gets it on to Altuve and then on to first for a 1-4-3 double play. It had to be quick for Cruz because Ramirez was moving on the pitch.
And you see the break, and Altuve's breaking over to cover the base, so he's right there ready to handle that throw from Reiner Cruz. Handy little 1-4-3 double play.
Well done. Now with 2 outs, it's Beckham. Gordon drew the walk in the second inning. Good-looking young college player who, at first when he came to the big leagues, really excelled, but the last couple of years his production has fallen off. The White Sox are hoping he can return to what he did a couple of years ago. He's only 25. He hit 14 homers in 09, drove in 63 runs. Last year it slipped to 230 and was striking out at an alarming rate. So the thought is that if he can go back to using all fields again, he can return to the kind of player they'd love to have in their lineup.
Happens to a lot of guys. They get a little homer happy and start to overswing.
You bet.
Reiner Cruz, we talked about his arm, a guy who can strike people out, but here it's the double play ball. This little slider.
Yeah.
A good feed to Altuve. Avoids the contact.
Cruz struck out 51 in 58 innings at Binghamton last year.
That's an explosive fastball. Only 92 on the gun, but you saw that riding action as it got into the hitting zone.
I think we just saw what Jeff Luhnow was telling us about, JD.
Hydroplaner.
Yep. From that arm angle. Missing there, and it's a full count for Reiner Cruz. Bud Norris in 3 innings allowed the White Sox 5 hits, 2 runs. He had 1 walk, and he struck out 4.
Well, Bud will go to the post Easter Sunday against the Rockies.
And a 2-out walk goes to Beckham. 2 of those for Beckham in this game. Well, the Rockies are one of those clubs that are not expected necessarily to do a whole lot this season, but boy, they bring some firepower, and it appears that Troy Tulowitzki, after being hit by the pitch on the left elbow by Ubaldo Jimenez, will be ready to go on opening day. Looks as if Todd Helton's going to bat probably 6th in that lineup, so that gives you an indication of what they have with the talented Carlos Gonzalez and others. Diaz, the batter. He had the 2-run single off the glove of Altuve earlier, and Carlos Lee reaches out to snatch that one.
Reiner coming with a little movement there at 94. A little two-seamer.
It's not the kind of movement the first baseman wants, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Bud Norris threw 55 pitches, 37 for strikes. Cruz missing there for a ball. It is a totally different type feel around the White Sox with the combustible Ozzie Guillen moving on to the Miami Marlins this year, and Robin Ventura taking over. Runner going. Broken bat, and it sneaks through, but it's knocked down behind second by Altuve for an infield hit for Diaz. White Sox feel pretty good, though, about the spring that they've had and the amount of work they've been able to get in with Ventura selecting. That was off the tip of his glove there. Selecting the workouts and working with Mark Perrin on putting things together. Now 2 men on and 2 outs for Brent Morrell. And there's strike 1. There's just been a real buzz around this ballpark all winter long. A lot of new people moving into the offices at Union Station down behind the left field line. New players coming in, and now it all comes before your very eyes on Friday night. There's just nothing like everything that happens that first night of the season. A lot of the Astros, your favorite players from years gone by, will be here to take part in it. And we're happy to be able to bring it to you once again. And all season long, especially Friday nights at home, those retro uniforms will be worn by the Astros. Rolled out to shortstop. Sanchez with the throw. In the 4th inning, no runs, a couple of hits, and a couple of men left. Still 2-1, White Sox.
With 35 highway miles per gallon. Well, the action gets set to move to the bottom of the 4th. The Astros down by a run. One more exhibition game. That's tomorrow afternoon. No TV, but we'll be back on the air certainly on Friday for the opener. Don't forget, pregame's going to be an hour before the first pitch. That will be at 5 o'clock, but there are still some tickets. We certainly want you to be out here on hand yourself because there's nothing like opening day regardless, and it's always a lot of fun. That's coming up. The Astros, of course, with a lot of new players. Good opportunity for you to buy programs and keep up to date with what you've got. Guys, I know we've got some new faces that we're having to identify, but it won't take long. It's going to be an interesting year.
Very interesting year. Here's J.D. Martinez, 2-1 White Sox, as the Astros come up in the home fourth against Chris Sale, and he fouls it for strike one. Kind of an intriguing move here with Sale coming from the bullpen to the rotation, and Robin Ventura has not yet named his closer. Said he might not name him until Friday. That could keep the media guessing.
I like it.
Yeah.
Maybe use more than one. Imagine that.
Well,
making a decision based on the game situation instead of just saying, you're my closer.
Not that you would be lobbying for that. That's a sweeping breaking ball 2. Well, you know, he does have candidates, including Matt Thornton, who would be the veteran candidate, but several very strong bullpen arms who could perhaps fulfill that role for him. After trading the White Sox closer to Toronto, they opened up that situation. It could have gone to Chris Sale, but if they can get a lot more innings out of Chris Sale this year, it could be a very solid move for them. That's strike 3.
Every Friday home game in 2012 is going to be a special Flashback Friday presented by the Methodist Hospital System. Each night is going to feature throwback jerseys, ceremonial first pitches from former Astro and Colt 45 greats, and Friday night fireworks courtesy of Marathon Oil Corporation. Root now and buy tickets at Astros.com. Friday always used to be a lot of fun. Now it's going to be even more fun with more things going on.
Well,
it's going to be funner than ever.
Yeah, they've always had fireworks, at least in recent memory. Maybe not always, but it's been years now that fireworks have been shot off after every Friday night home game. This year they're going to kind of specially tailor the fireworks for each era being featured on Friday nights. So we'll get fireworks from the 60s. That'll be the theme those Friday nights in April, J.D.
There'll be 12 of them throughout the season, and a heavyweight lineup coming in, too, to represent those different eras. Rusty Staub will be here, Joe Morgan, Nolan, Mike Scott. On and on.
Yeah. Greg mentioned there's a game here tomorrow to wrap it up for the Astros for spring training. It's a 1:05 start here. Jay Happ going for the Astros. Former Rice right-hander Philip Umber going for the White Sox. Thursday, the Astros will work out, and Friday at 6:05, it's Wandy Rodriguez and Jeremy Guthrie right here. And don't forget that hour pregame show. Chris Johnson struck out in the first. Fouling it back. Then Saturday night, a 6:05 start matches Lucas Harrell and Jamie Moyer. Sunday, a 1:05 game finds Bud Norris taking on Juan Nicasio. Then the Atlanta Braves come in starting Monday night. Astros' first road trip then after the Atlanta series will take them to Miami and Washington. Fouled away.
We're going to look at that new ballpark in Miami. Should be fun.
Have you seen it on TV at all?
So a little bit the other night. They were televising a Yankee game there. But didn't get a real good look at it. I didn't watch it for very long.
They've had the roof closed. And it'll be interesting to see if it's closed when the Astros get there.
I just know they have fish.
They do have fish. You're right. Carlos takes off. Here's a throw from Pierzynski right on the bag, and he gets him. Boy, he had a good jump, too, but Pierzynski, who threw out less than 20%, put that one right on the bag for Beckham.
I wouldn't be surprised if at some point during BP, Carlos told Pierzynski he was going to steal a bag on him. They weren't holding him on, so he decided to go for it.
Okay, Beckham, that ball popped out of his glove and into his bare hand. Ooh, backdoor breaking ball just missed for Sale. He's had that sharp breaker tonight, and it's 2-2. The Astros were 21 of 26 in base stealing for the spring coming into this game. Now 2 caught stealings tonight. And a strikeout of Johnson ends the 4th inning for Sale. And it's strikeout number 6 for him. White Sox lead the Astros 2-1 after 4. Top of the 5th inning, and Kyle Weiland is joining us from the Astros dugout. Very exciting time for Kyle, who joined the Astros in that trade over the winter, coming from Boston, 25 years old, born in Albuquerque, New Mexico, a Notre Damer. And how pumped are you at making this club after a good spring, Kyle?
Pretty pumped. I mean, seems like spring training was a little long. I mean, especially when you know you're competing for a spot and you're competing with some guys like Zach Duke and Lyles and Hernandez and Harrell. And so, I mean, it was definitely exciting to finally get that call in the office and them tell me that I made the team.
Yeah, and several of you guys were in there. 5 of you in one group, right? And kind of a different feel for being told that you were on the club, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's every kid's dream to play Major League Baseball, and so to break with the team this year is just a dream come true.
How did you respond when you first got the call this winter that you've been traded?
I was shocked. I think most guys have an illusion in their head whenever they get drafted that they're going to be with that team their whole career. So it was a shock. But as soon as I got traded, I jumped online and started seeing where the team's at and figuring out that, I mean, all the changes and everything new. And I talked to Luno and Mills, and I got really excited quick that I knew I was going to have an opportunity to compete for a spot this year.
Big Adam Dunn cranks one way out to center field. Schaefer running out of room out there, leaping at the patio. And Adam Dunn has hit the tables. That's number 6 of the spring.
Hit the tables.
Yeah.
That's where the big men go.
It is.
Central.
Kyle, you won't be giving up any of those this year at all.
Oh, yeah, let's hope not. Got some good hitters. So, I mean, Carpenter, he provided a lot of that power.
Yes, he did. Well, of course, the sinker is your specialty, Kyle. Tell us what else you throw.
We got a sinker. Cutter last year introduced that to the mix. A curveball and a changeup.
Well, Kyle, you were primarily a reliever in college, were you not?
Yes. I started a few games, but freshman year I closed the whole year, and sophomore year I had a few starts, but mainly closer, and then junior year I was strictly out of the pen.
Kind of a unique path, because a lot of times it goes the other way around, where guys maybe started in college and then in professional baseball they become relievers, but obviously you went a different direction. Was that your call? Was that the Red Sox? How did that?
No, it was the Red Sox. I mean, I thought I could start, and I had talked to a bunch of scouts when I was in college, and they're asking me, why aren't you starting? But it was a better fit at Notre Dame as a reliever, as a closer. So as soon as I got into pro ball, the Red Sox kind of started that transition, and it really worked out. I mean, I enjoy starting. It's fun to go out there and be able to work 6, 7, maybe even 8 innings instead of going in there and having 3 outs most of the time to let it go.
So you basically you made Notre Dame fans forget Brad Lidge. Is that what you're saying?
No.
Are you? By the way, your women's team is playing Baylor right now. They're down 8. I don't know how invested you are in Notre Dame women's basketball, but I thought I'd fill you in on that.
Okay. How much time do we have?
4 minutes in the first half left.
Okay.
Toward the left field corner here by Konerko. And a tough frame for David Carpenter on the back-to-back homers by Dunn and Konerko. White Sox lead grows to 4-1. That's Konerko's first of the spring. He was hitting .406 at game time. And Kyle, as you look at this next to last game of spring training, what are your thoughts about the team overall, the way you've seen the Astros develop throughout the spring?
It's an exciting team. There's a lot of young guys obviously this year, and I think that's good. There's a lot of fire. There's a lot of fire coming into spring training. Everybody's excited to be there. There's a lot of spots open, so it provided a good environment for competition, and hopefully that just carries over straight into the season.
Having that very good sinker, do you tend to want to ride that as long as you can in the early stages of the start, or how do you play it usually?
Each start is different. You can't say how it's going to go that first inning of each start until you're actually out there. Sometimes the sinker's not there from the first pitch, so you got to figure something out quick. or I mean, with the guys that we're facing, they're going to put runs on the board in the first inning. So I try, when my sinker's there, it's something that I like to use often. I mean, especially if they're swinging early and I let them get themselves out. But a lot of times you got to make those adjustments and figure out how to work through outings and if you want to get to the fifth inning.
Doug Brocail out to the mound to talk with David Carpenter. Kyle, as you look at that short porch in left field here at Minute Maid Park, does it remind you of Fenway?
A little bit. I don't think that Fenway, that 3, I think it says it's 310 out there. I don't think that's 310.
Right.
There's a lot of conversation over there that it's not even 300 feet. So get a little help here, but it's not much.
You can get some outs to center, and that's the case in Fenway as well, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, that looks familiar. I like that. That berm out there looks a little sketchy, but, I mean, at least there's an extra 30 feet.
Yeah. Pierzynski with a 2-0 count. And how have you found the infielders when you've got that sinker working and you're getting the ground balls? How have you found them to be behind you?
Excellent. I mean, I've had numerous plays made behind me that has gotten me out of jams, and I mean, these guys are hard players. They're young, so everybody's out here and fired, not scared to get dirty, and it's good having these guys behind me.
Is it a different feel for you coming to a team that lost 106 games compared to pitching for the Boston Red Sox?
Baseball is baseball. I mean, the guys are the same to start the year wherever you're at. I think they're trying to change the culture this year, make it into a winning culture and a team that expects to win. We've all have that competitive nature in us, and everybody wants to win. And it's the whole team that's got to get that idea together and believe in each other, and that's when special things happen.
And I imagine it's a fairly comfortable situation. Even though you're coming to a new team, you're coming to a team with a lot of young guys who are in the same boat you're in. And so, you called up to the Red Sox and all that star power and everything that goes with it, and Fenway and all that. It can be kind of a tough experience to settle in. But here, with all these young players, you're all in the same boat. It must be a fun group to be with.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there was the good thing about being up with Boston for the time I was, because I got to reach out to those veterans anytime I had questions, and they really did a good job to help me out and tell me how their experience was coming up, trying to adjust to the big league level. But it definitely is. It's a lot easier being around a whole group of young guys like myself who can relate to some of the struggles we'll have throughout a season, our first season in the big leagues, or the first few outings in the big leagues, and it backs off the pressure a little bit.
Rios the batter with a 2-0 count on Alex, and Pierzynski at first after the back-to-back homers by Dunn and Konerko. 4-1 White Sox. As we hear from Kyle Weiland, and the 5-man rotation already lined up, so you're looking forward to the Atlanta Braves. You looking over that lineup yet, Kyle?
Yeah, that was my last outing in spring training, so I got a taste to see what that lineup looks like, and we'll go from there.
Threw pretty well in that ball game, did you not?
I did. Had a rough first inning. One of those innings I was talking about earlier, where the sinker wasn't there. It was pretty flat, and they were swinging early, so I kind of did them a favor. But that's going to happen, and the sooner I think you realize that you're going to have those outings early on, and the quicker you're going to be able to make those adjustments and get through 6-7 innings, hopefully.
We'll be rooting for you to do that and get your 3 or 4 at-bats. How's that going to be hitting now in the National League?
Oh, I'm excited about it. I thought I would be a little more nervous my first at-bat in spring training, but getting back up there, it settled in pretty easy. I mean, it wasn't too much different from what I remember.
When's the last time you hit before this spring?
I got one at-bat in college.
Is that right?
I did. I got one at-bat.
Did you have to beg for that? I mean, how'd that come to happen?
No. Our first baseman, Mike Dury, he came in to pitch from first base and came out of the game in the 8th inning. And I came in, actually in the middle of the inning, and I came in to replace him. And he was the first one up that next inning.
How'd you do? Did you get a knock?
I did. First pitch.
Wow.
Yeah, first pitch. And I mean, I'm gonna get my hacks, so I decided to take the first one.
And have you looked ahead? Who are you pitching against for the Braves? You know who's going for them that night?
I'm not sure yet.
Alexi Ramirez 1 for 2, singled his last time up. CJ was in tight. Now he's backpedaling. The ground ball goes right to him. And we hope Kyle Weiland will get a ton of those this year for the Astros. Kyle, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Kyle. Good luck.
Fifth inning, 4-1 White Sox.
The fifth. Welcome back to Minute Maid Park. And are you hitting the road? Well, be sure to take the Astros with you this season. Subscribe to MLB.tv today to see every Astros out-of-market game live online and on your favorite devices in HD quality. Visit Astros.com to order and get more details. MLB.tv. Baseball everywhere. Bill?
Most people are still eating. They've been eating the whole game.
Good night for eating. We got to look at the new salads if you should choose to eat healthy when you come out. That's behind section 116.
116, they call it the green fork section, Brownie.
Did you go down there?
No, but I heard all about it. And you tell them what ingredients you want, and they put it in the bowl, and they'll mix up the salad for you.
Could be tuna.
Could be tuna. Could be beets and radishes.
Okay. That's a great spot. And they're looking in as Nate Jones, a rookie right-hander, comes in from the bullpen, 26 years old from Covington, Kentucky. He went to Northern Kentucky University. And his ERA for 10 spring appearances is 1.69, JD.
Yeah, well, the word on the street is that he has a nasty curveball. Pretty good heater, too, but the pitch that gives hitters fits is the breaking ball. We'll see.
He has struck
look
out.
At him.
Yep, he struck out 17 in 10 2/3 innings.
Little slide piece there.
Ball one to Matt Downs. Chris Sale threw 62 pitches, 37 for strikes. In 4 innings, he allowed 3 hits, 1 run, walking 2, fanning 6. Two balls, no strikes from Nate Jones. Nate, a 5th-round pick of the White Sox in 07. He's listed at 6'5". With those excellent numbers for the spring.
And nice for these guys to get in this tune-up in a major league stadium. You go to spring training as a young player, and you're up against big leaguers, but at times it feels like the minor leagues because of the size of the stadium. Some of the lineups you face are diluted, obviously. So to be able to play an exhibition game or two in a major league stadium is a nice little transition from spring training. That looked at the curveball there.
Sure did. 2-2 to Matt Downs. Nate Jones last year, AA Birmingham, had 12 saves and struck out 67 in 63 innings. He was a starter the year before at Winston-Salem. Popped up. Konerko coming in. 1 down. The Astros, as we mentioned earlier, will be at Chicago playing the White Sox in June as a part of their interleague schedule. They'll have the usual 2 series with the Rangers, home and home. They'll be playing Kansas City and Cleveland as well in interleague play.
Here or there?
Let's see. Kansas City and Cleveland are both here.
Both here.
Yeah. So we just have 2 trips, one to Texas and one to Chicago White Sox in interleague play. But a bunch next year. Strike 1 to Snyder. Chris struck out in the 2nd inning. That's what's going to be an opportunity for Astros fans. They can see every team in baseball here at Minute Maid Park over the next couple of years as the switch happens from the National to the American League.
Our job got a lot harder.
You know it did.
A lot of homework to find out about these American leaguers.
A whole lot of that. Fernando Rodriguez is getting loose. And a strikeout. That's out number 2. Justin Ruggiano due up next.
Jones, to me, he's gotten away with 2 pitches here in this inning. Looked like it was a little bit of a hanger that Downs popped up, and now Chris Snyder swings through this slider that backed up on Jones.
Yep. White Sox share a complex in Arizona with the Dodgers. There's the curve. Strike 1 to Ruggiano. Very convenient for the White Sox to come to the state of Texas and use this as a preparatory series to taking on the powerful Rangers starting Friday night. It'll really be interesting to see how the Rangers fare this time around. There have been some new seats built since last year. On the first row there, first couple of rows there, you see some of the new ones right by the batting circles on both sides of the field. A couple of rows there. Greg Lucas is right alongside.
Greg's turf got a little smaller, but there's still room for him down there.
Yeah, at least they left me some space. The one little negative they've got right now is that the photographers, when they switch from one side to the other, actually have to come through this gate where our cameraman Robin Barrow is working. And so it's a little tight, but they'll adjust as everyone else does.
It's a game of adjustments, Greg. We all know that.
It is. 3-2 to Ruggiano. Robin Barrow's been down there for many, many years.
He's the gatekeeper. That's his gate in front that he has to open between innings to let the cameramen from the other sides in.
Ruggiano takes a walk. Justin aboard with 2 outs for Jose Altuve now. It's the third walk of the game for White Sox pitching. Altuve drew one of those walks on a 3-2 count back in the third. Then he was doubled off on a liner to second. Jose wound up with 200 hits in professional baseball last season.
389 combined between his time at Lancaster and Corpus, leading all of minor league baseball.
389. Strike one to Altuve, and when he got to the big leagues, 276 was his Astros average for 221 at bats. He had 5 walks in 221 at bats. He's had 10 this spring. 1 ball, 1 strike. We were hearing from hitting coach Mike Barnett about the drills he and Altuve have been doing this spring, and just to train his eye and look for balls in the middle of the plate. And it was a good way of explaining how he did it when we heard from him in the Florida portion of spring training. JD, they put 7 baseballs from side to side across the plate. 2 of them hung off the edges of the plate a little bit, but the idea of the drill is just to stand there and look at the ball coming in and try to make it a decision to swing at one of those 3 balls in the middle. 1 hop throw from Pierzynski. There's a steal by Ruggiano. And that was the whole purpose of that drill that has trained his eye and has translated into more walks for Jose.
Ruggiano battling for a spot on this club to show what he can do. Able to steal the bag, got a break with a bad pitch. Yeah, it'll be interesting going forward to see if Altuve is able to increase his walks in any significant way. There's a lot of people think that it's almost impossible to do that, to take a guy who's always been a free swinger, but early indications are that it's going to work. I mean, my goodness, the numbers in spring training are pretty impressive.
Well, he really believes in it.
I guess the question is, how much does it sacrifice, how much does it change his approach in terms of being aggressive when he does attack in the strike zone? I guess that's what Mike Barnett would tell him. Look, we want you to be patient. We want you to be disciplined. But you get a pitch over the plate, go ahead and take a whack at it.
Exactly.
It can be a little mystifying for a young player who's had so much success in the minor leagues. And 389, that's a whole lot of success. 400 in A-ball last year. And then to come up here and to be told, we want you to make some changes. Wait a minute.
True.
I'm a 400 hitter. I'm Ted Williams. What do you mean?
Well, he had a 297 major league on base average.
Right. And then it's just about the approach to watching a player play.
Now another full count, his second of the game. And if nothing else, he's forcing the pitcher to work a little bit harder than in many of his at-bats last season. Brad Mills talking with David Carpenter on the bench there. David working 1 inning so far. And we'll see who comes out for the 6th as the 5th ends with the strikeout for Jones and a 0 for the White Sox right-hander and a 4-1 White Sox lead.
6. Opening day is this Friday at 6:05. How could you miss it? We've been telling you about it. It's going to be against the Rockies, and you can catch all the festivities before the game, including the pregame ceremony starting at 5:35. Now, that ceremony will include the Budweiser Clydesdale. I'll tell you what, They are great, and if they come prancing in, the ground will shake. It's great. I've been at field level in St. Louis when they've come by. Also, the national anthem will be performed by country music star Clay Walker. First pitches by Astros alumni. You can root now and buy opening day tickets at Astros.com. And, of course, opening day has a starting pitcher, and that will be Wandy Rodriguez. And here is the starting rotation as the season begins. It's Rodriguez, Lucas Harrell, Bud Norris, Jay Happ, Kyle Weiland. We've heard from Kyle, of course. We know all about Wandy. We saw Lucas a little bit last year, and Bud, of course, pitched tonight. Jay Happ, the veteran. That's it. Those are the guys who will be counted on to get it started in 2012. Brownie?
We can't wait. Thanks so much, Greg. Here's Viciedo leading it off in the 6th inning, and Fernando Rodriguez in the game for the Astros. It'll be his first opening day roster on a major league club, as well as the others we talked about. After going 2-3 in a portion of a season with the Astros in the majors last year with an ERA just under 4 and a good strikeout pitcher last year, JD.
Yeah, it combines a four-seam fastball that he moves up and down in the strike zone with a good over-the-top curveball.
Right fielder Ruggiano over and running out of room. Out of play for him.
Those pitches produce a lot of swings and misses.
Fernando, 27 years old, from El Paso, Texas. Drafted by the Angels in 2003. The Astros signed him as a free agent. And he appeared in those 47 games for Houston last year. Was in some real pressure situations. The one that comes to mind is that game in Los Angeles when he had to bases loaded, nobody out in the extra inning game and got out of that. So he was put through the ringer a little bit and should be better tested for that this year. And we're hearing that the bullpen is a real strength in the opinion of the GM, Jeff Luhnow. Here we see the position players with their first opening day rosters assignments coming up. Altuve, Bogasevic, Gonzalez, Martinez, Shuck, and Castro. Do we know that Shuck is on the team
No,
yet?
but if he did, that would be the case. It would be his first time on an opening day. And that's always fun, boy. First time you're able to go out there on that line, have your name announced, tip your hat. Pretend you're in an All-Star game or World Series.
There's that big over-the-top curveball you told us about. And it froze him. Viciedo down for a strikeout. That's number 5 of the game for Astros pitching. Beckham has walked both times.
He'll be swinging this AB.
You know it.
Suspect this will be his last at-bat of the game. Imagine Robin Ventura will make some moves here shortly.
David Carpenter in 1 inning allowed 2 hits, 2 runs with a walk and no strikeouts. Fernando spots the fastball on the outside edge to make it 1-1. It's a different look, of course, in that younger starting rotation for the Astros with Brad Myers now the closer. And it's a 2-ball, 1-strike count. The Astros feel that with Lucas Harrell in the rotation now and Kyle Weiland, they are well fixed, and they also like the bullpen makeup, including Fernando Rodriguez. He's a guy who can pitch more than 1 inning if they ask him to do that. Usually it was 1 inning at a time last year. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Paul Clemens looked very good as well in spring training, and he'll be starting the year at AAA Oklahoma City in the rotation. He was obtained in the Michael Bourne deal from the Atlanta Braves last year. Lined over second and out into right center field. Luciano over to play it. Big turn by Beckham, and he was swinging the bat as JD thought, and he did reach for the 3rd straight time.
Nice night for him, working a couple of walks and a good solid off-field base hit. Didn't get too greedy there, just willing to punch that ball the other way.
So Beckham out of the number 9 spot. On base all 3 times tonight. And here's De Aza. He's reached a couple of times and drove in 2 with that infield hit in the 2nd inning off the glove of Altuve. 10 hits for the White Sox, 3 for the Astros tonight. bunted and foul. Well, JD, as we preview the season, the National League Central Division is where the Astros reside for one more year. The White Sox are in the American League Central. Detroit is supposed to be the kingpin in the AL Central. Who would you say you would pick to win the NL Central this year?
Well, with Pujols and Fielder both leaving the division, Chris Carpenter hurt, there's been a lot of change in the Central. I guess if I had to make a pick right now, I would pick, I don't know.
Good pick.
I still like Milwaukee. I like their pitching. I think Greinke's going to be better than he was last year. Here are some of the changes. Pujols, of course, gone. Carpenter has to be a major concern. Matt Gamble takes over for Prince Fielder. Latos comes to the Reds, as did Ryan Madson, but Madson's out for the year. So let's go with Cincinnati.
All right.
I'm going to say Cincinnati.
Well, today Dusty Baker named Sean Marshall his closer to make up for the loss of Madson, he hopes. And the Cubs have lost Zambrano to Miami. 38 losses for the fading Pirates last year after they were in good shape at the All-Star break, over 500. But they have some talented young people also.
Pitchers ran out of gas last year.
You're right. That's exactly
guys
what
are all pitching so well. Faded down the stretch, so it'll be interesting to see if they're able to sustain that excellent work for longer. They've had some turnover. Eric Bedard is now in the rotation. Burnett, of course, but he got whacked in the face with a comebacker, so he's out for a while. I don't know. Who do you like?
Not sure.
It's hard, isn't it? I mean,
it's hard with you. Yeah. I really think the division is weaker as a whole. Doesn't mean that there might not be a good team, but I don't think there's any really strong team this year. And I don't think you would say the Cardinals were a really strong team last year. They just got hot at the end. Brent Morel 0 for 3. Certainly earned their world championship with the way they played in postseason, but they barely made the playoffs. Going back to the last day of the season when they beat the Astros here, and they were waiting in their clubhouse to see if they were in the playoffs or not.
Yeah, what a wacky run that was, boy.
It was crazy.
Not just them, but the way the whole end of the season shook out with Tampa Bay and Boston cratering the way they did, Atlanta imploding. It was really dramatic, and as September started last year, there seemed like there was going to be no drama.
True.
All the races seemed to be kind of settled.
Now, what some of the White Sox personnel are talking about is the additional wild card that we'll have in each league this year. They're kind of eyeing that possibility. And some people think that's a pipe dream for them to be thinking about that. But teams think about that now. They're not buying into the publicity for what they'll do this season. 2 balls, no strikes.
If you believe you have no chance, then you might as well go home. You always got to convince yourself you got a chance.
Sure.
But they don't have a chance.
Strike there. That makes it 2-1.
Seems to me like the wild cards in the American League are going to come in the East and the West, right? You get the Yankees, Boston, Tampa Bay, Toronto, a team worth keeping an eye on.
Yes.
And then Texas and Anaheim out west.
Exactly. Now, those two teams could wind up with high victory totals. Of course, anybody could, but they have 2 weak sisters in their division, and they play them often, Oakland and Seattle. Off the end of the bat, near the right field line, that loop's just foul. And it's 2-2. Yeah, it's really easy to sit here and say, well, such and such a division is strong, this one's weak. Who knows? There'll be a million things that'll develop that you could not possibly have foreseen. So we'll have fun watching it play out.
The Nationals optioned John Lannon today.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I thought he had a spot in the rotation with the injury to Chen-Min Wong.
So they optioned him and added Herr Detweiler to their rotation.
Okay.
That's Detweiler.
Now, that could be a surprise team this year. Strikeout on the curveball, and Rodriguez gets number 2 of the inning. to end it in the sixth for the White Sox. No runs a hit and a man stranded. It is still Chicago over Houston, 4-1. Chris Sale, the starter, gave up a RBI single by Carlos Lee in the first, but then De Aza with a 2-run infield hit made it 2-1 White Sox in the second inning. And then a long ball by Adam Dunn reaching the center field patio makes it 3-1. And then turning on the inside pitch, Paul Konerko made it back-to-back homers in the fifth off David Carpenter. 4-1 White Sox. That's where the game stands right now. The hits 10-3 in advantage of the White Sox. And now Addison Reed comes out of their bullpen. Brent Littlebridge at third base as Robin Ventura makes some changes. Both clubs have brought extra players for this two-game series, players who have already been assigned to the minor leagues just to kind of complete the spring without overtaxing the veterans who will be on their opening day rosters. Addison Reed last year in 6 games had a 3.68 ERA. He's another of those talented arms in the White Sox pen for pitching coach Don Cooper. Highly regarded bullpen this season. Addison just 23 years old from Montclair, California. And San Diego State, where he was the closer for Steven Strasburg. And then when Strasburg moved on into the pros, Reed replaced Strasburg as the Friday night starter for San Diego State. Brent Littlebridge is the third baseman taking over for Brent Morrell. And we have a new center fielder as well. Thompson taking over there for De Aza. Trace Thompson. Jordan Schaefer has an infield hit, and he's lined out to second. Both those at bats against the lefty, Chris Sale. And they were both good at bats. There is strike one. Schaefer patrols center field very capably. And in this ballpark, that's what teams are looking for. That one caught the inside corner. Very good pitch, and it's 0-2.
That couldn't have been a lot of fun to play San Diego State in those days.
Not really.
Strasburg and then this guy coming behind him.
How about that? Reed was a third-round pick in 2010. Ooh, 96, and he gets a strikeout. He has an electric fastball. That's 9 strikeouts for White Sox hurlers tonight. Chris Sale had 6 in his 4 innings.
Wasted no time, just attacking in the middle of the strike zone with that four-seam fastball.
Well, you know, from what we're seeing from these bullpen arms, there might be several closers out there for Robin Ventura. Sanchez taking ball 1. He may not have to name one.
Sooner or later, I don't know when it's going to happen. I don't know if it'll happen in my lifetime or not. Baseball is going to cycle back to a less structured bullpen. Because all the evidence suggests that it's a good idea to do it. It just takes the nerve for somebody to actually do it.
It really does, doesn't it?
Yeah. The one-inning closer preceded by the quote-unquote eighth-inning guy and the situational lefties, and that, you know, that's the way everybody plays it now. But it's gonna sooner or later. Somebody's going to say, you know what, I'm going to bring a guy in the 8th with a couple men on base. He's going to get out of it. I'm going to leave him in there to pitch the 9th. And I'm going to have a very difficult situation in the 9th inning. And instead of bring my closer in, I'm going to bring in that lefty to get a tough left-handed bat out because that's what the situation calls for. And if it doesn't work, I'm going to take the heat of being second-guessed.
Well, that would be indeed.
Nobody wants to be second-guessed, so it's easier now to manage now because he's my 8th-inning guy.
Right.
He's my closer. He's the one he's supposed to be out there. Not on me. It's on him.
Yeah. Line to right field, and that is a sliding catch. Good play. Rios closed on it. Looked like it might be in for a hit, but Sanchez was robbed as Rios got down underneath it.
Rios be shortened up a little bit with Angel hitting there, especially in the off field. And well positioned and a nice play. Maybe fighting the lights a little bit, but he was able to put it away.
Really good play.
And managers and general managers cringe at this stage of spring training when people leave their feet to make a play or try to steal a base.
J.D. Martinez, an excuse me bouncer. And it's a 1-2-3 6th inning for Addison Reed. White Sox up 4-1.
The 7th, and be sure to collect all 6 of the Astros' greatest moments bobblehead in 2012. Guarantee your ticket to all 6 nights with the bobblehead night 6-game plan. Plan start just $30, but do not guarantee receipt of a bobblehead, so arrive early. And of course, the bobbleheads you see are probably not going to be the ones that you're going to get, but be sure to root for your favorite moments and visit Astros.com for tickets. Bill?
Patty, I have a scoop for you. That was the Steve Perry bobblehead collection from the visiting clubhouse that's been down there for many years. We've shown it before, JD. The scoop is that Steve has donated that entire collection, really, to the, I think, the new ballpark in Miami.
Wow, and how many bobbleheads are part of this collection,
Oh,
do you know?
hundreds, right? I don't know.
At least.
J.B. Shuck is the new left fielder, and Brian Bixler is in center. Brandon Lyon takes over on the mound.
And welcome back, 4-1, top of the 7th. Be sure to collect all 6 of the Astros' greatest moments bobbleheads in 2012. Guarantee your ticket to all 6 nights with the bobblehead night 6-game plan. You take a look at all those bobbleheads. Granted, those will not be part of it, but there are some great ones coming up. Plans start just $30 and do not guarantee receipt of a bobblehead, so come early, root for your favorite moments, and visit Astros.com for tickets. That was a lot of bobbleheads, guys.
You bet it was. Thank you, Patty. And here's Brandon Lyon on the mound now, throwing ball 1 to Adam Dunn, who has a single and a homer tonight. Towering home run to center field to the patio area. And he fouls that one back. We had a chance to chat with Adam before the game tonight. Always good to see him. Brandon Lyon had only 15 appearances last year before having that surgery on his right shoulder, JD.
Yeah, just tough start to the season for him. Ineffective, but hurt. And tried to kind of gut it out and work his way through it. It just didn't pan out for him, so opted for the surgery. But feels good now, threw the ball well this spring. Brad Mills talking while we were in Florida about how pleased he was with the way the ball was leaving Brandon's hands. Nice and easy delivery. And with a team with so many young guys, it's nice to have that veteran presence out there in the pen.
Boy, it is. He had that biceps tendon move in his right shoulder area. It's not the usual type surgery a pitcher would have. In fact, I believe it was Dr. James Andrews who performed the surgery, and his staff is seeking information from Brandon Lyon on how things go after the surgery. They just hadn't done that surgery very much. So Brandon's giving them some feedback, and things have gone well. Remembering back to opening day a year ago, JD, when he was on the mound in the 9th inning with the lead at Philadelphia. It was a crushing loss for the Astros as the Phillies roared back in the bottom of the 9th to win that game. Difficult way to start the season after they worked so hard against Roy Halladay to get the lead and take that to the bottom of the 9th. Difficult way to start the season a year ago. Out to second base as the shift is on. It's the shortstop, Angel Sanchez there. As Lyon had to try to flag it down up the middle.
And when you lose 106 ball games, you lose games in all kinds of ways. But those hurt more than the other kind. And psychologically, those take a bite out of you. And the Astros lost a lot of those games, especially in the first half last year. Before Mark Melanson settled in. Did a pretty nice job.
He may wind up as the Boston closer now. Paul Konerko homered in the 5th inning. The Brad Mills club with 25 saves and 50 opportunities. Not the kind of percentage he is looking for this year, certainly. Late innings presented some difficult challenges after the injury to Brandon Lyon. And just a lack of save situations for several days at a time. The Astros could go into the 9th inning without a lead in that most difficult of the years they've ever had in their 50 years. So they hope that things will go much, much better after the 6th inning this year. Captain Chris Johnson comes over. 2 down. Well, that could do so much for this club, though, J.D., with the likes of a Brandon Lyon, we'll say, pitching the 8th, and Brett Myers, who had the one good year in his only year as the closer, getting the 9th, and then you've got a David Carpenter or, you know, Fernando Rodriguez or Reiner Cruz or whoever to set up before those innings, and that could make for a different season in many ways in the late innings.
Yeah, Jeff Luhnow today is saying that he felt pretty comfortable with the bullpen makeup right now. Likes some of the younger arms that will work before the veterans. It's interesting because normally you think about the 8th and 9th inning guys being the more of the power arms, but with the Astros, that's not the case. Lyon and Myers both really control guys who don't blow you away.
Good point. 2-0 to Pierzynski. He seems ageless. Still catches a lot. He's 35 now. He smacks this liner for the right field corner. It's got some top spin on it. It hooks foul. Pierzynski had never been on the disabled list until last year when he was hit by a pitch and had a broken bone in his left wrist. Just fouled by a couple of feet, maybe. AJ hit 287 last season. He's a 288 career hitter. Paid attendance is 13,586. Day baseball tomorrow. 105 start for former Rice Owl right-hander Philip Humber and Jay Happ. And that'll wrap it up for spring training for the Astros. The players will have a workout on Thursday. And don't forget the airtime of 5 o'clock Friday night for our pregame show, an hour-long pregame show before the 6:05 start. Well, there are going to be so many special things happening throughout the season. Not only with a young club, but celebrating the 50 years of history. So kind of a convergence of the old and the young, if you will, during this season.
I think if there were a theme song for that pregame show, it'd be Getting to Know You.
True. A lot of new faces. A lot of young faces. Liner to right field. That one is fair, and Pierzynski has hit his way on with a 2-out single. He's on for the 3rd straight time. Harold Baines, the first base coach, one of the White Sox greats.
They're hanging something. Might have been a fastball, just not a lot of life, and in the bad spot.
JD, I liked your suggested name for a sandwich to be named after you, the hanging slider.
Yeah, Brian Caswell was here at the luncheon today, and Brian has a number of food outlets here in the ballpark. A renowned chef, and I suggested the hanging slider because he does. He has a grill where they make sliders and such. Seems like a natural, doesn't it?
It does. Pitch runner Andy Wilkins takes over at first for Pierzynski with Rios batting. Well, maybe Brian will break one out. That'd be fun. Well, pitchers usually work maybe sometimes every other day in spring training, and a lot of times if you're watching box scores, you won't always see them on that pattern because they might be working in a minor league game. But these relievers do get their appearances in. They do get the arm strength built up for the opener. That's tapped, and Chris Johnson comes over trying to get a grip, but not in time. There was a little bobble there when he tried the transfer between the glove hand and the bare hand and couldn't quite get a grip on it to make that throw to get Rios.
Ruled the base hit. Kind of a do-or-die play there for CJ. And we'll take a look at it as he's coming hard, and if he gets it cleanly, he's going to get his man, but just a little bit of a double clutch there cost him.
Pinch runner at first as well for Rios. So a hit for Rios, 2 men on, and it's Ramirez. Alexei 1 for 3. Not only a good hitter, but a good fielder among American League shortstops, ranking very high. He's 30 years old. Drove in 70 last year. He's from Cuba. Viciedo is from Cuba.
Wiry, isn't he?
He is.
He's got a little pop in that bat.
Yep. Steve Stone was pointing out how far up he stands in the batter's box. The extreme front edge. That's pretty unusual.
He trusts his hands. Got quick hands.
1 ball and 1 strike.
A lot of guys sit way back in the batter's box because they want as much time as possible to compete with these 95-mile-an-hour fastballs, but he feels like he's quick enough to get to anybody's heater.
That one goes out to center field. Ryan Bixler there. 2 in, the White Sox 7th with no runs, a couple of hits, and 2 men left. 4-1 Sox.
Tickets are the only way to lock in the best seats, prices, and perks. Lock in the best available pricing and added benefits, including discounts from regular ticket prices and exclusive events and access to Astros management personnel. Visit Astros.com for tickets and full information. Astros baseball celebrating 50 years in the past with year number 51 this season.
Thanks, Greg. We look out and survey the field and see some changes, including a right-hander, Jesse Crane from the University of Houston, coming in after a fine season with 8 wins, 3 losses, and a 2.62 ERA for Jesse Crane.
He, too, with a very good arm and outstanding strikeout numbers, 70 punch-outs and 65 and a third innings of work. Sox have run some arms out there tonight. My goodness.
They sure have. There's the right fielder Mitchell, who's just come in. Jared Mitchell in right, new shortstop as well. Eduardo Escobar rather. And Crane becomes pitcher number 4. Addison Reed had a 1-2-3 6th inning with 1 strikeout. There's Escobar at short. Still Littlebridge at third as the Sox lead 4-1. Carlos Lee has an RBI single and a walk.
Somebody's going to hear that Crane was pitching at Minute Maid Park and think, see, the guy bought the team and now he's out there pitching.
Yeah. Well, we have a story about Jim Crane as Jesse pitches. Jesse, 30 years old. Towering pop behind the plate. And Hector Jimenez, by the way, has gone in to catch with Andy Wilkins playing first base now for the Sox.
There's an old Astro farmhand.
Yep.
Hector.
That's right. Switch hitting catcher. Hector's bounced around from organization to organization. Jesse Crane pitched 67 times last year, had 24 holes, and struck out 70 in 65 innings in a very good year. So he's another of those bullpen arms, and Robin Ventura has them stacked up in pretty good readiness for the American League season to open for his club on Friday. Well, Jim Crane played catch today with Joe Smith before this game. Jim Crane, the Astros owner, was on a talk show, and Joe Smith there in the jacket called in, and Joe Smith said to Jim Crane on the radio, give me 3 reasons why I should renew my season tickets. And Jim gave him 3 good reasons. And Joe said, all right, I'll do it if you'll play catch with me at Minute Maid Park before a game. So there Jim Crane came in to cement the deal and get Joe Smith to renew.
That's leadership right there, Brownie.
Well, there's another part of the story that's really good. Unfortunately, Joe Smith's father passed away a few days ago, we understand, but he had his father's glove. Joe works for UPS, and Jim Crane used Joe Smith's father's glove to play catch. And we understand Joe's father played for Cleveland at one time. So a good story, and Patty Smith's going to have that on Astros Insider. High drive to center field by Carlos Lee, and that turns into out number 1. Jim was at the luncheon today, and boy, he's had just a whirlwind spring. Learned a lot about the various people in this organization, and it's interesting to watch this thing evolve, JD. There are so many people not only on the field but in the office of this organization. Quite a turnover from last year, a year ago. Now Chris Johnson 0 for 2 with a couple of punch outs.
And Jim flashing his old form there. He was a very good college pitcher at Central Missouri. He punched out 18 in the Division II College World Series game back in the day.
Yes, he did. He did. Very good pitcher. He's from the St. Louis area, went to high school there. Off the end of the bat and caught. Beckham went up, and Johnson with a bid for a hit, but that's denied for out number 2.
Beckham might be the man of the match.
Might be. Brian Bogusevic now is the pinch hitter for Matt Downs, who was 0 for 2 tonight. Bogey, a .287 hitter with the Astros last year. 4 homers, 15 runs batted in 87 games. Has hit .250 this spring, a couple of homers. He's driven in 6. He has 5 steals this spring in 5 tries. Jesse Crane throws strike 1.
Was there a better moment last year than Bogusevic's walk-off grand slam to beat the Cubs?
Can't think of one, JD.
Couldn't have been, huh? That was fun.
It was really special in this ballpark to end a 7-game losing streak. Well, he just battled and got a pitch he could hit a long way.
Needed all of them, too. Needed all 4 of those runs.
That's exactly right. Greg Lucas did the interview on the field after the game. There's a check swing, and we hope for many more moments like that, Greg, this season. And it had to be such a thrill for a young player like Brian, who was struggling about 10 days ago, and Brad Mills had a chat with him and told him all the things that he could contribute to the club if he didn't happen to be hitting. And he had a chat with Carlos Lee, and right after that he just started hitting. He's had a really good last week or so. 2 balls and 2 strikes, and the Astros are ready to ride the roller coaster with a lot of these young players this year. They know there will be some slumps along their way. There are for even the most established players during the course of a long season. Now a full count to Bogey. Jesse Crane was drafted by the Twins in 02. Jason Castro, all smiles, had a solid spring, hit a home run against the Tigers in Lakeland a few days ago. That's where he hurt his knee a year ago and was out for the season. What a difference for Jason Castro. Crane gets a strikeout, and in the 7th inning he goes 1-2-3 through the Astros, and after 7, White Sox lead at 4-1. First inning, White Sox pitching staff has been tough tonight. The Astros make some changes now. There is Brett Wallace in the game at third base for Chris Johnson. And from minor league camp, Brett Wallace, who will begin the season at AAA Oklahoma City. Jonathan Singleton from minor league camp takes over at first base for the Astros from Carlos Lee. He is ranked the top prospect in the Astros organization by Baseball America. Wilton Lopez is in the game. 73 games last year brought him a 2-6 record, a 2.79 ERA. First pitch hit to center field. Bixler backing on it. Way back, almost to the base of the hill. For a long out, number 1.
Yeah, we heard this kid, Ciedo, had a little pop in the bat, and he put a good swing on that one. He just hit it to the wrong part of the ballpark. Bad aim. Not a bad idea up there hacking, though. Wilton Lopez throws first pitch strikes a high percentage of the time. Hardly walks anybody, so you might as well take a whack at it.
Bixler's one of those multi-position players. He's played 7 positions. And he could be handy as the season evolves. Strike 1 to Beckham. Beckham's been on all 3 times. 2 walks and a single for Gordon. He rips that one, and it's caught by Brett Wallace. Hard line drive by Beckham. It's quite a night for him. Wallace will be playing third at Oklahoma City.
Yeah, it had some hair on it. So Wilton's come in, giving up a bomb to center field, a rocket to third, and he's got 2 quick outs.
Well, he doesn't walk people. Gives his fielders a chance to make plays. And now it's Thompson. Thompson taking strike one. Trace Thompson last year, quite a year with 24 home runs. 87 runs batted in the minor leagues. Wallace gets another chance and takes care of it. Wilton Lopez is very swift in moving through the 8th inning. 4-1 White Sox. 5 pitches for Lopez. We look at the Astros AAA Oklahoma City affiliate. And there's the pitching staff there with Juan Abreu. He's pitched in the big leagues briefly. Paul Clemens had a very good spring, JD, and the fans will see some other names that they saw last year, Del Rosario and Lyles. And, of course, Enewy Rodriguez was here as well for the Astros.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if we didn't see Clemens at some point this year. Jordan Lyles likely to spend some time in the major leagues this year as well. I guess if you're going to set the over-under on number of starting pitchers the Astros used this year, I'd say 8 or 9. And there, look at the position players now for AAA Oklahoma City. A nice mix of youngsters and some veterans, guys that have been around a little while. Fernando Martinez picked up from the Mets. He was waived by the Mets. The Astros picked him up at one time, a top prospect of the Mets. He's had some injury problems, but he's worth keeping an eye on. They got Landon Powell late in spring training, a catcher who was released by the A's.
Chris Snyder takes strike one from Matt Thornton. He is pitcher number 5. And last year with 2 wins and 5 losses, he had an ERA of 3.32. He's the veteran in that bullpen at age 35. And last year, 3 saves for Matt and 20 holds. So he's another of those possibilities to close for Robin Ventura. A roller brings him over toward first, and he has to make the play himself. 1 out. Kosuke Fukudome, the former Cub, is in left field for the White Sox. Justin Ruggiano comes around for the 3rd time. He grounded out in the 2nd. He walked and stole a base in the 5th. Well, it's got to be nervous time for a player like Justin Ruggiano to see if he makes this opening day roster here in the next few hours. There's ball 1.
Yeah, and you can't talk your way into it. All you got to do is go out and play and hope for the best. I had a teammate once in the minor leagues during spring training was talking to the major league pitching coach, and he said, "You got to get me up there. You got to get me up there." It was Johnny Padres with the Phillies, and Pod said, "I got nothing to do with it. You got to pitch your way up here."
Out into center field. 2 down.
Yeah.
But that's how things get sometimes. You wish, you hope, you pray, and hopefully you're there on that first base line if you're the Astros lining up for Friday night's opener.
Yeah, baseball and like the other sports, it's far less political than any other business, I think. I mean, it's all about merit. You've got to earn it. It's not who you know and who you're friends with and things of that nature. You just got to play your way there.
Altuve flares one, and that dunks in for a hit. Well, that time he went for the first pitch, got a good result on it, and he's on for the 2nd time tonight. After working a couple of 3-2 counts with a walk and a strikeout, here's the Astros' first hit since inning number 1.
See, and that's the thing. This is the interesting thing about watching Altuve play this year, because that's actually ball 1. That pitch was up out of the strike zone a little bit, but he's a guy throughout his professional career has been able to go out of the strike zone, make good enough contact to get base hits.
Hit that one over the new second baseman, Ray Olmedo. Now Brian Bixler.
Last time up, Jose had a nice patient at bat, got the count full, and ended up striking out on an off-speed breaking ball. And that's going to be the challenge for him, to continue to maintain that philosophy of patience when he struggles with it. You know, you strike out on a few 3-2 counts, and you're going to be inclined to start hacking early. He's going to have to fight that.
J.B. Shuck taking that one. 2 balls, no strikes. He's in left field with Bixler in center now. Shuck got some time in with the Astros last season, as you know. Hitting .241 this spring. He's driven in 6. And he bangs out a looping line drive hit to center field. This is what Shuck can bring, and we're not sure if he'll make the Astros opening day club on Friday night, but he's been a good player off the bench. It belies his lack of major league experience to come up in these situations and be patient and deliver, but we've seen him do it a few times.
A very good plate discipline, and he's got a nice, simple approach at the plate. He doesn't overswing. Fairly quiet in the box. You saw him. He got that front foot down, but the hand stayed back. That's what allowed him to hang in there and put that good swing on that pitch from a tough lefty.
Now Angel Sanchez, who's 1 for 3, hit the ball on a line to right field last time, and Alex Rios made a very good sliding catch in right.
Having that conversation with Brad Mills early in the game and talking about all the left-handed bats he has, and you would think that might work against J.B. Shuck a little bit, but that kind of that bat right there, and that's what Mills was saying. I don't care which way they swing as long as they're good hitters. If he can hit lefties, it doesn't matter.
2-0. Chris Snyder and Brad Mills talk it over. Astros players got in from Corpus Christi about midnight last night. Broken bat roller. Olmedo over to first to end the Astros 8. No runs, a couple of hits, 2 men left. We move to the 9th inning. It's 4-1 White Sox. For Houston, we move to the 9th inning now. 13,586 the paid attendance here at Minute Maid Park in the next to last game of spring training for the Astros. New right fielder is Travis Buck, taking over for Justin Ruggiano. Buck and right. We have other changes as well. Landon Powell is the catcher, obtained from the Oakland A's, who released him, and the Astros will have Landon Powell and Carlos Corporon doing the catching at AAA Oklahoma City. There's Jonathan Villar, the shortstop. He's one of the Astros prospects, ranking pretty high on the prospect list in the Houston organization. And Brett Myers, the closer, is in for the 9th. Throwing strike 1. Rough year for Brett as a starter last year. Now he's the closer. Brent Littlebridge, who's a very good handyman for the White Sox, leads it off here. Robin Ventura can move him around to play various positions. Angel Sanchez has moved to second base for the Astros. Myers closed for the Phillies in 07. Littlebridge with very good power for 97 games, 13 homers last year.
Plays all over the place.
Yeah. Kind of looks like Aaron Rowan a little bit without the left leaning stance, but he's really upright, isn't he, at the plate? 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Hands in tight to the body and kind of sits down a little bit in his stance.
That's it. It's a good way to describe it. He sits down.
Myers is going to be a different kind of closer in that we talked about it earlier with he and Line, not power guys who rely on command, and Myers the guy who really relies on mixing his pitches up, curveball, slider to go along with the fastball. He's got to do that even though he's just pitching an inning at a time. What gives him the ability to do that is he has exhibited very good control of his breaking ball throughout his career. 2007 that Myers was the closer for the Phillies, had 21 saves that year in 24 chances.
Now Tyler Flowers, he's a catcher. 209, 5 homers, 16 runs batted in for Flowers last year. He hits this one foul outside the left field line for strike 1. It's tough for Flowers to get a lot of playing time with Pierzynski playing so often for the White Sox, even at the advanced age. Tyler's 26 years old from Roswell, Georgia. Braves drafted him, and they traded him to the White Sox in December of '08. Behind in the count, 0-2. Flowers had just 110 at-bats last year for the Sox.
Would you say they're waiting for him to blossom?
No doubt. He didn't blossom there. He wilted. A strikeout for Myers.
There's that good breaking ball.
Boy, wasn't it, though? Right on the inside corner.
It's a lot of late inning guys. You can count on a high percentage of fastballs. That's not going to be the case for opposing hitters against Myers.
Now Hector Jimenez, a switch hitting catcher from Venezuela who came up through the Astros Venezuelan Academy. Ball one. Bounced around quite a bit. He was with the Dodgers a couple of years ago. He's had some surgery. Runner takes off for second. No throw by Powell. Looking back at the home plate umpire, pitch was called ball two as Lillibridge stole second base. And David Rackley with that call, apparently not very pleasing to the Astros catcher. That one to shallow left. VR diving, can't quite get there. It's a hit. Stop sign at third base. Shuck throws into second on the looping single by Jimenez.
And Lillibridge, the base runner from second, could not afford to be too aggressive there. See him, he's out towards the shortstop position. He's in breakdown mode, ready to scramble back to second. Had Villar been able to pull off the circus catch. Nice effort, just a little bit shy.
Now it's Wilkins up for the first time tonight. And he talked about Mark Parent managing some of these young players who are now with the Astros, who were with the Phillies when he was a manager in the minor league system. We hadn't seen Mark Parent for years, had we?
I hadn't. Yeah, I can't remember the last time I saw him.
But he used to come into the Astrodome and just victimize Houston pitching.
Yeah, the backup catcher for the Padres.
He didn't look like a backup catcher when he played against Houston. He wore out the Astros. He's the bench coach this year for Robin Ventura.
Was with Benny Santiago was the frontline guy.
That's
I'm guessing,
right.
yeah.
It just seemed like as good as Santiago was, they had to work Parent in at least once in a 3-game series against the Astros with his success against the Houston club. I think he hit 2 home runs one game. He was just simply on his game. And that's usually bonus when the backup catcher comes in and hits like that. Right off the end of the bat, still no balls, 2 strikes. Glad you could join us tonight. And the next night you can join us is Friday. For Astros baseball, the opener, 5 o'clock for the pregame show as the Colorado Rockies come in. Jim Tracy was irate a few days ago about Ubaldo Jimenez hitting his shortstop, Troy Tulowitzki. Then he came off the mound. That's smacked into right field. That'll be an RBI single to make it 5-1.
Yeah, apparently there've been a little trash talk is probably too strong of a word, but kind of a little bit of a war of words in the media a little bit between Tulowitzki and Ubaldo Jimenez. And Ubaldo drilled Tulowitzki. Ubaldo says it wasn't on purpose. Jim Tracy said something along the lines of it was the most cowardly act I've seen in 35 years in baseball.
Yeah.
Or gutless. I think gutless was the term he used.
I believe you're right. Jared Mitchell, the batter. There's ball one. Well, Jimenez was suspended for 5 games.
He's appealing. I mean, he's appealing the suspension. That's not my personal opinion of him. He's appealing the 5-game suspension.
2 balls, no strikes. Hey, congratulations to the Baylor Lady Bears.
40-0, that's pretty good.
Oh, Kim Mulkey.
Brittany Griner.
Yes.
She probably scored 40 in about 35 tonight, I'm guessing.
Yeah. And she's a Houston area player. 2 balls and a strike. Just a special time. And, you know, I was watching another baseball telecast the other day, and broadcasters were talking about that Baylor program is probably the best overall college program, considering men's and women's sports, that you can name. I hadn't thought about it that way.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know if I buy that.
I don't know either, but, you know, when you think about how the football program has gotten so strong, and now women's basketball now, the baseball program's usually been good down through the years. I don't know about all the other sports, JD.
Was the football team good this year?
Yeah.
Oh, they had RG3.
Yeah, they had RG3. Struck him out looking. Myers caught that toss back from his catcher with a bare hand. 2 outs. A guy like Landon Powell, who's had major league time with Oakland, could be very helpful in the Astros organization. There's Myers, barehanding the throw back. Legend has it that Johnny Bench, a couple times in his career, barehanded a pitch.
Yeah, I've heard that story.
I don't think a pitcher would like that a whole lot, do you?
Well, and that's the story I heard of Jim Maloney, right?
Yeah, I think so, yep.
Who was a hard thrower, but Bench felt like he wasn't really giving it his all that day, so Bench went out and kind of got into it with him on the mound, and Maloney uncorked his best fastball, and Bench barehanded it. I don't know if that's true or not. I hope it's true. I'd love to see the video.
There's the force play at second. VR shoveling, and it's a 1-run, 2 hits, and a couple of men left in the White Sox 9th inning. They lead it 5-1. Back to Minute Maid Park after all these months away from baseball. It has returned. It's 5-1 White Sox. Bill Brown and Jim DeShays. We've had a list of guests tonight. Enjoyed hearing from Jeff Luhnow and Brad Mills and Kyle Weiland, and it's been fun, JD.
It's like we have a talk show. We just bring these guests in, and they were in the green room for a while, and we brought them out, had a nice chat, sent them on their way.
Yeah.
But now, see, the show is over, and the real stuff begins on Friday night.
Oh, boy. The intensity will be ratcheted up many notches from where it has been tonight. Tonight, a laid-back evening of baseball. White Sox have really thrown the ball well. And they're going to go with pitcher number 6 for the bottom of the 9th inning. We go to Greg Lucas. Greg?
Well, I agree with you guys. I'm really looking forward to the games that count. I know all these players actually have been looking for it more than even us because they've gone through this entire month. They want them to count. Of course, the guys that are still on the bubble to make the roster want to make that first. Back to you guys.
Yes, they do. Now the Astros come up in the bottom of the 9th inning. Brian Bixler from Hector Santiago, and we were hearing great things about Santiago's arm before this game. There's strike 1 to Bixler.
Bixler certainly performed well enough this spring to make the ball club. One of the later cuts in spring training, but you could see him in an Astro uniform at some point this season.
Well, he's a great player to have in reserve. There's Jonathan Singleton, so he'll get a 9th inning at bat. And you'll get to see a guy who's ranked very high among all major league prospects in the minor leagues this year. Santiago throws a screwball. He's 24 years old. He's from Newark, New Jersey. And last year got into 2 major league games. He was at Class A Winston-Salem and AA Birmingham, where he was a starting pitcher. Santiago throws in the mid-90s when things are going well for him with that Scroogey, which is an unusual off-speed pitch these days in baseball. To shortstop. 1 out for Santiago. Escobar with that play. Now Jonathan Singleton. Obtained in that trade with the Philadelphia Phillies, and Singleton entered the Astros organization last year after coming over in the multiplayer deal for Hunter Pence. Had good numbers in the minor leagues and He is down to be the first baseman at AA Corpus Christi to start the season. And really has excellent reports, not only his hitting, but decent base runner, good fielder, has a nice approach at the plate.
Very balanced. A line drive machine who will develop more power, good plate discipline. Seems to be on the fast track.
Baseball America ranks him as the best first base prospect in the minor leagues. He was at Clearwater when he was traded to the Astros, and then he went to Lancaster. At Lancaster, he hit .333 in 129 at-bats. 2 balls and a strike. Jonathan was the top prospect in the South Atlantic League when he was there. Ranked very high on the Phillies list, so the Astros really had to have him to complete that deal. And along with Jared Cozart, Josh Zeid. Jonathan, just 20 years old. He was an 8th-round pick of the Phillies in '09. His father, Herb, was a quarterback at Oregon in the early 1970s. That's what he did in the 2 minor league stops combined last year, 298. And he hit .248 against lefties last year. This is a tough lefty. He slaps the ball, and here's a backhanded play. Look at Lillibridge. And he's safe at first, but a tremendous play by Lillibridge, and Singleton reaches with the infield hit. Wow.
Yeah, it seems like Lillibridge shows up on the highlight shows quite a bit. Usually it's in the outfield. Here it is at third base making a heck of a play, but a base hit for Singleton. Singleton a big guy, but runs pretty well. And able to beat this throw from Lillibridge.
Singleton's aboard. And it's Brett Wallace batting now. Strike to Wallace, who's made the transition back to third base, a position he played at Arizona State. .259 for the Astros last year, 5 homers, 29 runs batted in. Brett's had a good spring. He hit .260, 1 homer, 7 runs batted in. It just got down to a situation involving Chris Johnson being terrific this spring. There still was a chance that Brett might have made this club. But he was disappointed, as you would expect, and as he said when he got the news that he was going to Oklahoma City. But nonetheless, that happened last year. He got sent down, came back up. And you have to figure he'll probably have a pretty good chance at doing that again this year.
Well, you know, he's been working on his swing. They've been working very hard. He and Mike Barnett trying to retool his swing a little bit. And he's got very good bat speed. He's an awfully strong kid, and I think, you know, even though he'd prefer to be a bench guy in the big leagues, he is better served being an everyday player in AAA, because then he can implement those changes. And if it works for him, then he can become the kind of hitter that everybody expected him to be. And I still think it's in there. I mean, there's a lot of people frustrated with Brett Wallace that he hasn't done more in his time here in Houston, but I think he still has a chance to be a real good major league hitter.
He's really worked on his craft over the winter, getting in good shape, and pulling the ball. We saw him pull the ball in spring training. And he's been a guy who has shown most of his power to left center field when we've seen him in the past. Jimmy Paredes also will be at Oklahoma City. He'll play second base there. He was moved from third back to second. So that gives the Astros depth at that second base position. And Jimmy, as you know, played a lot the last couple of months of the season when Chris Johnson and Brett Wallace were in Oklahoma City. Just became a situation of evaluating players this spring, and Chris Johnson was the best. And as you said, the same thing applies to Paredes that applies to Brett Wallace. The Astros want him playing every day.
Jeff Luno prefers Paredes at second base over third base. He thinks he has middle infield skills, and he's played a bunch of shortstop as well.
Wallace continues to battle at 2-2.
You can see the thinking behind Paredes, because he's a strong kid. He's got some pop, and if he could be average or above average defensively at second base and be a guy who turns into a gap hitter who gives you 15 home runs or so, it's pretty solid from the second base position, along with the speed.
Yes. Good job by Wallace. He coaxed that walk. Really battled to get it. Santiago and Jimenez talk it over with 2 on here in the bottom of the 9th and 1 out. Bogusevic comes up, the DH. I think you're right about Paredes. From what we saw of him, he didn't seem to have the best instincts for third base, but he hadn't really played there until last year. More of a middle infielder in the past. The Astros got him from the Yankees. He had been a shortstop and second baseman there. And I think he has a chance to be more of a premium player offensively at second base than at third. He just didn't seem to be a big power hitter when he was here, but he's still a young player too. That could change.
Yeah, I think the move to third base was just because of need last year. CJ struggling the way he was, so let's give this guy a shot. Get him some at-bats. At third base was the best fit on the Astros club at the time.
Strike there to Bogusevic. 1-1 to Bryant. Brandon Powell's on deck. The Astros with 14 wins and 16 losses this spring. There's a liner into center field. Singleton is stopped at third by Dave Clark, and the bases are loaded on the hit by Bogusevic. Astros stirring up 9th inning trouble. They didn't have a hit after the first inning until the 8th.
These lefty at bats off this left-hander. This is pretty impressive.
Really is. Now it's a Travis Buck. Landon Powell's on deck. So Buck is in this spot in the lineup.
Another left-handed bat.
Yeah.
Taking away his screwball.
Exactly. Buck at .311 this spring with 1 homer, has 4 runs batted in, formerly with Oakland and Cleveland. Line shot to the pitcher. Santiago to first. Double play to end it. That was an absolute BB. Caught by Santiago, and he turned it into a double play from 1-3 to end the game.
The series of good at-bats continued throughout that inning. Here's another good one. Unfortunately for Buck, right back to the pitcher, and he turns it into a double play, but a good swing.
White Sox win at 5-1. We'll be right back.